She told us that she told us that she might be on the flight.
If you'd like to begin the meeting, you may.
Okay. Eric, is there anyone on the, I guess on the online or Zoom that we're aware? Not for this? Okay.
The mayor isn't, all right. She's going to try.
She's trying. Okay.
You'll let us know when she gets in?
Okay, so I guess call roll, Erica,
Pound the gallon?
here.
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 I'm present.
Mr. Vice Mayor and Council, good evening. It's nice to be
Sorry.
back with you all.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Welcome.
It was an eventful 3-month hiatus, let's put it that way. So tonight you're sitting at this meeting at 6 p.m. in your capacity as the local planning agency. At 6:45, you have a separate meeting, and then at 7, you have your regular council meeting where you'll discuss the budget. And you will again, sitting as the city council, consider the ordinance that's before you right now at 6 p.m. This ordinance, you'll be making a recommendation to yourselves. So you'll be making a recommendation from yourselves as local planning agency to city council. So my recommendation is, because you've set aside these 45 minutes to discuss this ordinance, that you discuss the ordinance now and make that recommendation. And if there's new discussion to be held during the regular council meeting, you can certainly do so. Both meetings have a public hearing, so you can hear from the public at both. My recommendation, since there hasn't been discussion just yet, is I would discuss the ordinance now, and then before you vote, take public hearing and deal with anything then. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and read the ordinance title. This is an ordinance of the city of Miami Springs, Florida, amending section 150-070.1 Miami Springs Gateway Overlay District within Article 7 Business District of Chapter 150 Zoning Code of the city's Code of Ordinances to amend the list of uses permitted on first floor levels along road rights of way, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing for an effective date. My understanding is that while I was away, council gave direction for this ordinance to be drafted with certain permitted uses to be added to the list of the existing permitted uses. I'll let Roger Poe, my colleague, who I am very grateful to. I'll take a moment of personal privilege to say thank you to him for covering for me these last 3 months. And so he's drafted this ordinance along with my partner, Alex Uribe, who's on via Zoom, and they're available to answer any questions you may have. There you go.
Good evening, council members, again.
Good
That
evening.
was a very short period of not seeing you guys. So the ordinance before you, at LPA, of course, is a relatively simple ordinance. It's intended to be a stopgap measure for the anticipated overall changes to the gateway overlay, CBD, Northwest 36th Street, and other areas that this council has identified as needing planning revisions. As a stopgap ordinance, this has one real effect, which is it amends the list of permitted uses on first floor bays right? To add, in addition to retail and restaurant, it adds personal services along Hook Square in particular. It adds office uses, including medical and dental office uses along any road within the Gateway Overlay District, except for Curtis Parkway and North and South Royal Point Sienna. And it also adds veterinarian use to the Gateway Overlay District as a permitted use, provided that a veterinarian use is located at least 0.25 miles away from an existing veterinarian use within the Gateway Overlay District. So it is fairly simple. I will make sort of a general comment. I've met with all of you, staff and planning. There have been a lot of ideas that have been floated around of potential additions, potential changes to regulations. Our direction was solely sort of related to these three uses. But at this time, it's perfectly fine for you to discuss any, additions, amendments that you would consider for this.
I would also like to add to Roger's note, if you notice the ordinance, because that was the direction that was given, the ordinance title was drafted that the list, this is an ordinance amending the list of uses permitted, not just on first floor levels, but along road rights of way. So your existing ordinance addresses specifically what the first floor uses along rights of way are. So we're limiting it to first floor that faces a right of way. Okay, so just keep that in mind as you deliberate.
We open it to public comments first, or?
It's a public hearing, it's open for public hearing. You can certainly invite public comment now, or you can wait until after your discussion as council, whatever you prefer.
Does anybody in the public here want to just, are they available to talk or are they allowed to talk?
The clerk informs me there's no one signed up.
No one signed up.
But if there's somebody here who would like to speak on the ordinance,
They may have to sign in if you want for the record or no?
just state your name, please.
Good evening, Nicholas Rodriguez, 200 South Biscayne Boulevard, representing Similia Veterinary Services.
Could you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Nicholas Rodriguez, 200 South Biscayne Boulevard, representing Similia Veterinary Services. Dr. Gutierrez was here in the audience today. So we were here last meeting when we discussed the ordinance being put forth, and we're very happy that the city is working with us in good faith to get this done. We spoke about kind of righting certain wrongs at the last meeting, and I think this goes a long way to getting there. I think Roger clarified the only point that we wanted to clarify, which was that the 0.25 distance separation requirement wouldn't apply to the animal hospital that's outside of the overlay district. It only applies to uses within the overlay district or veterinary uses. So we just would ask for that confirmation from council or staff or from Roger. But we just want to put that on the record to make sure that Dr. Gutierrez's use will be permitted. He's in permitting and he's ready to move forward. And thank you all for considering this ordinance. We would really ask you to adopt this at first reading tonight and move forward with this as quickly as possible, because as has been discussed, Dr. Gutierrez has been waiting a long time and the pressure is mounting on him. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Roger,
Does anybody want to
clarify that?
speak to that, just to confirm?
Yeah, the way that this is drafted is within the Gateway Overlay District, a veterinarian use cannot be located within 0.25 miles of another veterinarian use in the district.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess.
To the chair, I have a question. I was looking at the original ordinance again. Roger and Heidi, you've been phenomenal. I've asked you a million questions and just other things as I started getting into this. I just want to clarify some questions before we move forward. On ordinance under design standards and number 3 under uses.
You're looking at the original ordinance?
Yes. Well, I don't think that part changed at all.
There's no changes there.
Right. It says upper floors may be commercial, office, residential, or a mix of residential, office, and commercial. The mixed use ratio found in 150.070 of the code shall not apply to the Gateway District. Can you clarify that term for me? Can or can they not be in there?
I'm sorry, Councilman, where are you
It's-
reading from?
It's ordinance section 150-070.
Mhm.
Letter C under design standards, number 3.
Okay.
On the last sentence of that paragraph, you see,
Yes.
are they talking about the second floor?
Upper floors would mean second,
Okay.
third, fourth.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. It says that the code should not apply to the Gateway District. I don't understand that.
So, do you want to take it?
No, you can go ahead.
So in the, and then to preface this with, I have not studied the prior sections that's referring to, but there is a ratio, there's a formula, so to speak, of how much of one thing you should have in the district versus another that in the Gateway Overlay District does not apply. So it applies in the Central Business District, but it does not apply here. I'm trying to pull up that section.
I thought, let me look up in the Gateway, they don't have an option for second floor. I could have sworn I saw that somewhere. On the second floor, they can have office, commercial,
They
like
can-
these types of business that we were.
It was exactly the sentence you're reading. At the end of that paragraph where it's referencing the mixed use ratio that is set forth in the CBD. That's in the prior section of the code. And I believe it's referencing in sub 150-070 sub I. It provides that in addition to the floor area required for the first floor of commercial or office use, the minimum square footage requirement for upper floor residential shall be a minimum of 900 square feet for each residential. And then the following maximum percentage allocation of total residential area to ground floor business area per development shall apply. And it provides that the residential shall be 67%. In other words, a 2-to-1 ratio between residential and business respectively. So that ratio doesn't exist in the overlay district. So you don't need to have a ratio of for every 2 residential units, 1 business.
Okay, so on their second floor of their building, 23% of that can be mixed use.
So let's take a step back.
Okay,
So I know that the project that is at the front of everyone's minds is 1 Curtis Parkway, because that's the only project that's been built under this ordinance. That project does not have any, the site plan that was approved for it. Everything other than the first floor, the ground level,
It's residential.
it's residential. So we're not talking about commercial uses on the second floor of that building because per the site plan, they don't have anything.
so they applied for residential only. They didn't
Correct.
exercise the option of commercial or retail or anything like that.
Correct.
Second, third.
So everywhere else, this ordinance as revised and as existing, that ratio just doesn't exist. So if another building were to be built under the Gateway Overlay District regulations, they wouldn't have to abide by the ratio that's, remember, the CBD controls the Gateway Overlay District. The Gateway Overlay is a departure. It relies upon the CBD regulations, but it departs from them in certain ways. So if you have certain regulations in the CBD are not applicable in the Gateway, and this is one of those.
But if they wanted to apply for that, would they have the option
If,
or no?
if the,
If they wanted to apply, let's say a builder or the developer wanted to apply for the second floor to have office, personal use, or what is that we're discussing here on this ordinance? Could
I
they
think
have
at
had the
that
option?
point,
I
that
don't
would
think,
be for that specific property. It would be a site plan modification. I don't think that's,
Right.
the developer's here, so I don't think that that's where they intend to go with that project.
But are you talking about future projects?
No, I'm just talking about, I could have sworn I saw somewhere there where in this building on the second floor, they can have, because obviously the first floor was limited to restaurant, entertainment. And I was under the impression that the second floor was available to these other types of businesses.
But it sounds like from what we're reading that that's
It is.
Yeah, no,
for future projects, but the site plan that was approved for One Curtis Parkway didn't have that.
I didn't
So
apply for that.
Correct. And I'm looking at the site plan that Roger was very, had foresight to send me ahead of the meeting. And the retail is only provided for on the ground floor. There's no retail or any commercial space on the second and third floors. It's all residential.
Yeah. Specifically apartments.
Just wanted to let the council know that the mayor is online.
Hello, Mayor.
Richard,
Sure.
you, sir. I just want to understand one thing, and we may have discussed this earlier or not, but what was the rationale for exclusive occupancy there to retail and entertainment and not any other use? I wasn't on council then, so
Right.
I don't have that.
So the reason, and I'm sort of reading into the prior legislation a little, the reasoning behind keeping first floor uses, because that was the limitation, first floor uses to retail and restaurant was really to give a pedestrian oriented feel to that community, to create a suburban downtown feel, very clear suburban, not a major downtown, obviously.
Right.
And if you sort of know what's happened in the past 3 years, and COVID really accelerated this, and your planner has spoken to this multiple times as well, the sort of use distributions for retail in particular have trended downward because retail is moving online. So, that's why we're here. That's where we were, and that's why we're here.
And I don't think it's in this proposed ordinance because we weren't changing any of the purpose of the gateway overlay. But actually in the code, it actually sets forth what the purpose is.
Right.
Yep.
And I have it pulled up. It's the purpose, and I'm just gonna cut out some of the language, but the purpose of the district is to facilitate placemaking by enhancing neighborhood character and authenticity through participatory design and identifying projects. Architecturally significant buildings, entrance features, art in public places, improved landscaping and signage, traffic calming features, and promotion of the city's history. The foregoing will further the goals, objectives, and policies of the CBD, which are to foster, and I think this part is particularly important, especially with the changes that you have before tonight. It's to foster a suburban downtown that satisfies the business, service, dining, and entertainment needs of the community's residents. So I think with the list of permitted uses that you have before you for modification tonight, you're addressing those.
Still within that scope.
Yeah.
Yes. No, and I understand that. I just was curious as to why council at that moment decided only to go. I mean, having given that range of possibilities, did not include it or actually excluded those other services. And I thought there was some other magic wish or something that the entertainment or retails were going to bring in whatever, I just want to be clear on that. That's all.
There may be more in the staff report from that time. I only have the 2018 ordinance in front of me.
I appreciate it.
So there may be more to shed light on that, but
Well, I mean, it's obviously the reason was it was underserved at the time. Things have changed since then to now. But definitely the intent was to make it a more lively atmosphere, things that we didn't have. Yeah, things have changed, but I'm not too much on board that I mean, a general statement, yes, retail has gone down since 2017 when e-commerce took a big impact on retail, but restaurants and bars and that type of and food technically it's slowed down the last year in South Florida, but vacancies are historic lows. So I think it's best the wording there to say that we're, thinking about doing this is to give more flexibility. But it's not because retail, what the first initial intent of this code was, restaurants, bars, just food establishments that made it more lively, because that's not true to say. South Florida is pretty strong when it comes to that. Yes, the volume has gone down. 2021 probably was the height of it, but more for flexibility. That's fine. But not because the retail has gone down.
Through the chair and counselor, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to ask one of the vendors a question. The potential vendors.
You're talking about
If
potential.
like,
Dr. Gutierrez.
I think you're still on public comment. I don't know that you closed public comment, so.
No, we
certainly
didn't.
Through the chair.
Huh?
You can ask.
Dr. Gutierrez.
If
¿Cómo
you'd
está?
like
Buenas
to
noches.
speak.
Can you come up here, please? I have a concern. I guess it would be best to address it to you. And because I'm in favor of opening up the spaces there and opportunities. And first of all, I'm a dog owner, have been dog owner all my life. So I have a lot of respect for the work that you do and the service that you provide. The concern, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. I'm sure you've been in this business a very long time, and residents, at least some residents here, a veterinary going into that building, the first thing people think about is dog peeing and outside, and that. In your experience, how has that been handled?
The problem about
Sí, orinando,
this is something that if you think disculpen, no puedo hablar en español porque a veces me es un poco para explicar algunos detalles,
Yo
me es
entiendo,
más fácil. Okay, disculpe.
You need a translator?
Well, I try,
I
okay.
would- Yeah, try your
It's
best.
okay.
If not,
Your attorney can
your attorney can
translate.
translate.
No,
for you.
okay, okay. Normally, it's evident that you need to take this present in any place that you want to take this business. For example, we have the veterinary that we have here. You have one restaurant in the left and one restaurant in the right. I passed through that many times, and you never think that you have animal inside of that. Haven't you? Or everybody passed for that?
no,
What?
but in the bank's parking lot.
Yeah, but
And
the
in the
point
back of it.
normally is this. We have two things. I am clear. I am concerned about that. And in first moment, I give it to Tammy a paper with all the measurement that we have to maintain very clear our business. Because in my opinion, the external image of my business is something that is important for the marketing of my business. I live here. I know how the people thinking in the city. I understand very well what important is for the city, the image of the city. It's a green city, and this is because my business is a green business too, because I use the free concept. If you can search what is the free concept in internet, is no fear, no anxiety, no stress for animals. And the idea would be that the animal will be very comfortable inside of the clinic or with the owner in the car, no managed through the space. And this is very important for me because I understand what important is for the city too. In the design of the clinic, we research all these things. And it's something that honestly, our future co-worker with me need to understand that it's very important that the people think that this is the veterinary clinic, but it's not a problem for the city. Because we have in front of the water of the city, the Hialeah water. We was in the board with the DERM, with the account, with the Miami-Dade County, and we explain all these things because it's something that is important. And normally, in all the veterinarian that I work in Miami Beach, in Alton Road. And everybody know that this is something that is important, and everybody respect that. It's very clear for the business now.
Thank you, Doctor. And just one more question. I think this has been established in some of the paperwork that you've submitted. There is or would not be long-term care in these services because, well, that happens in the hospital and all, and that's another concern because dogs and,
Yeah,
have to be
yeah, yeah,
walked and
yeah.
all that. You understand the concern that I'm raising,
Totally.
okay.
And this is something that is clear when we started with the project. It's very clear and was one of the conditions that in the Miami-Dade board, they signed me for me that we can take animal during the night in the hospital will be between 9 to 5:30, 6:30. It's clear.
Through the chair, if I may.
Yes,
So I think the ordinance itself limits it to 48 hours as
Mhm.
well. And, to your prior concern, I think there's lots of urban areas where they've adopted veterinary uses. It wouldn't be outside of your purview to require like an operational plan for how they plan.
no, I
to address it.
appreciate that, and I know that. I just wanted to
I got
hear from the doctor.
No, it's very
so-
clear for me. I understand what is the situation. I appreciate your help, but I understand what is my limitation in my practice in the city. Totally understand.
So-
Thank you, Doc.
And to clarify on the question that Councilman Vasquez was asking, the ordinance as drafted does have a limitation that it's, if you don't know the language,
48 hours.
that it's short-term boarding for medical purposes only for no more than 48 hours.
Yeah.
So,
No, honestly, I don't want to do boarding and I don't want to do night care. This is for me because I don't want to take this responsibility.
Okay.
My business has other orientation.
I
It's
appreciate-
more for natural things than other things. Okay.
and just for purposes of keeping things straight for the record, that we are speaking with the gentleman who does have his proposed veterinarian use in this one building, but this ordinance is for an entire district.
Absolutely. No, I thought I'd ask because he's here.
No, please, all that you want.
Through the chair, a question for Mr. Dr. Gutierrez.
Yes, please.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years? Do you see yourself in that same building? Do you see yourself for a
Yes.
very long term?
My idea would be that, honestly, because for example, very practical. I have with the bank, with Wells Fargo, I need to pay the loan in 10 years. I have the time to 10 years to pay the loan.
Will you be there longer than 10 years? or-
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. Yes, I don't have other option. Honestly, it's impossible that you take the loan, work 10 years, and when you're
Hmm.
possible start to obtain profit, you abandon the place. It's something that is not negotiable for that.
Not to mention, you're a Springs resident, right?
Yes,
You're a
yes.
resident of Miami Springs,
Yeah,
so,
7 North Royal Porciana.
right. So I'm assuming that's part of the reason why you want to
Yeah,
set
yeah,
up
yeah.
shop here. You could work anywhere, but you want to
Yeah.
bring this to your
Yeah.
How you're working now and how.
No, normally I am working other hospital because I am relief doctor. I work in Doral Center. I know many people that normally live here and need to go to the emergency, and I know what is the situation about that. But my idea would be to take my business here and help to the community,
Yep.
do the integration, because I think that after the COVID, incredible, when we thought that the business of the veterinary business would be down, was totally different. Growth, everybody need to do appointments with time to see the doctors. The emergency is totally full. It's crazy. I think that it's a good opportunity to help the people because we don't want to compete with the other clinic that we are here because my project is to do the natural medicine. It's other things. I think that we can help the people together with the other clinic in other line.
Thank
This is
you,
idea.
Dr. Gutierrez. Appreciate it, but unfortunately we have to kind of move on right now because we got another meeting in about 10 minutes. So, but thank you very much.
Thank you
I
so
think your
much.
message has been
Thank you.
Clear. I do have one question. Anybody else for public so we can close? Nobody else? All right, so we close the
close the public hearing.
public hearing and we can start discussion, I guess. Anybody want to start with that or? do have a question in reference to that. We were just talking about obviously concerns and how you handle waste and so forth. And he mentioned an operational plan, and also he talked about parking. You know, I have dogs as well, and there's a certain plan how, you know, appointments walk into the establishments. You wait outside, or they have certain numbers on their spaces. Is there a way that we can put some type of requirement to that, or just, you know, we want a good relationship, and I think we need to have everything kind of clear. So it's pretty clear with the 48 hours about staying over, but it was just curious if we can,
So what exactly would you want
Like
to, like,
I kind of see what exactly they're planning to do in reference to that, because, you know, we've already experienced from the other hospital here, and they're not, you know, they're doing boarding, they're going outside and they're doing their waste. There's no plan. So this is why we have this concern. Obviously, it doesn't mean the gentleman's going to do the same, but the other one has not done things properly. So if we get clear with some of the stuff that he's promised to do, you know, I don't have a problem with it. I'm just wondering if there was a way to clearly mention.
To the chair, my concern is that we've spent 20 minutes and we haven't really talked about what we're supposed to be talking about here, which is the ordinance about changing the permissible uses.
Yeah.
I feel like we've talked about other parts of the ordinance that aren't even being addressed as part of this ordinance. And we're talking specifics about one person that's coming in, but I don't want to get into like site plan approval for somebody, like as a local planning agency. My understanding is we're supposed to be discussing whether or not this ordinance meets the directives that we gave council in order to expand the permissible uses. And there were a myriad of reasons. I happen to think that it does. And if we have another meeting that starts in 7 minutes, I think that we should just stick to talking about whether or not we're going to recommend to ourselves at the regular council meeting to enact this ordinance change.
so.
Okay.
Through the chair, Walter, because he's right on it. Can you help us get through that? Like, what is your mindset now looking at the proposed ordinance?
I am in favor of recommending that, you know, this to the council, to ourselves. I think that we all had one-on-one meetings with the attorneys. We had consensus to do this, and now we have it before us.
So you
So
can
that's a
certainly make a motion to recommend approval.
I'd
of the
like to
ordinance
make
as
a motion to
drafted.
recommend approval of this ordinance as drafted.
Second,
Discussion. Actually, I have discussion. So I guess to myself, I'll give him permission. In reference to the medical,
Yes.
I like to have a little bit more defined definition of what that entails. You know, is it, you know, professional, self-practicing doctors? Just curious, because medical seems to be like a broad.
So, council member, or sorry, vice mayor, I think that's a good idea, frankly. I did look into, in particular, the term medical office, and it doesn't appear to be defined in our code at the moment. I can certainly, if it's the will of the council, obviously, you know, work with our planning staff to really hone in on what is a medical office use for purposes of gateway because of the title issue.
Yeah, I mean, my
Okay.
concern is obviously a large establishment there.
Right.
Traffic, you know, buses.
So you see this
Blood
more as like a
banks.
general practitioner's
Yeah,
medical
to
office.
me in particular, so I'd like to see it more defined.
I think I asked that too,
Yeah.
on our one-on-ones, and we said we can bring it up for discussion here. So this is where we're at.
I don't know if there's any,
So I guess, and we can come up with some options with Ms. Vargas between first and second reading. But just so that we can have some direction on that point, are you looking for perhaps a square footage cap on how large the medical office can be? So that you avoid offices that are 50,000 square feet, let's say. I'm just throwing out a very large number, but
Right.
just by way of example.
To the chair. For example, we have here that we've limited the expanded uses to the side of Hook Square which I know Roger said we don't want to do any spot zoning, which 100% there. But I feel like it's kind of like a spot zoning because we're just going on that side. Maybe we can get more into a percentage of units in that building. But again, I do have some other questions that I don't think I can ask here on the dais because it may be a legal thing. Unless we can step outside really quick and I can ask you.
So
So
what I would recommend, if there's something that you would like to discuss with us, perhaps between this meeting and when we have the meeting on first reading, we can
Okay.
step outside and discuss it. If it's something that we can address quickly, we'll certainly, we can discuss it then.
as a point of clarification, my understanding is that the expansion of this permissible use is excluded in the area of South Royal and Curtis, correct?
So-
So anything along Canal Street and anything on Hook Square within that overlay district, all of that, these new permissible uses would be included, right? We're leaving out that section that is basically,
So as it pertains to office uses, which includes
Right.
medical and dental, we are allowing it on any street except Curtis Parkway and South and North Royal Poincianas, which is your main thoroughfares. That's where we want to see the most pedestrian oriented
Right.
suburban downtown activity. As to personal services, there is a limitation as to Hook Square only.
Right.
Now the district encompasses multiple properties on Hook Square. There's no particular
Right.
property. And then as to the veterinarian use, there is a distancing requirement that is imposed. This is fairly standard for some types of uses, and that can be allowed on Hook Square or Canal Street. So to answer your question, office anywhere except Canal or Curtis and South and North Royal Poinciana, personal services to Hook Square, and veterinarian to Canal and Hook Square, provided that there is a distancing requirement.
Through the chair, on Canal Street, on that side of the building, you have the most amount of units. So we have the sports bar that's taking up bay 1 through 4. Then we have another restaurant on 5. Then 6 and 7 is open, as Rogers discussed. You've been very, very helpful helping me figure this all out. And then in bay 8, we have the vet. Okay. Then on the Hook Square side, we would have tentatively M Salon and some others that want to go there. And we're limiting that use on that side for personal services. Can the personal services and the vet be on Hook Square? I mean, I don't know if the vet has already
So
done some modifications to Bay 8. Can we move them over to Hook Square?
my understanding was that that was not feasible.
I think that's something that we can discuss offline. For
Okay,
certain.
yeah, because I don't want to open up
Remember, this ordinance is not just about the one building.
Exactly.
It's
Right.
about the what?
it's not about one building.
This is
The
gate.
ordinance is applicable district wide. So.
But we're,
Like I said earlier,
okay,
when we're talking about the ordinance, we need to make sure that we're focusing on, it's a district-wide regulation. I know that the soup du jour is 1 Curtis Parkway because that's it's at the front, it's a large building, everybody knows where it is. And so it's popular to identify it in the discussion, but let's keep in mind, this is a broad ordinance to address regulations for the whole district. So
So do we a call for vote or just
Well,
recommendation?
hold on, I still have,
Consensus for everybody or?
I have a comment before we call for a vote. Is that okay?
Yep.
So 2 things. To the vice mayor's point, I think that it would be helpful if we could define medical a little better for the second reading, right? Because I think when you say medical, does that include, like a massage parlor? Is that considered, maybe not, I don't know. But,
and there's a lot of
but-
different ones that are.
but,
to that point,
mhm,
I think that there are a lot of uses that we don't define in our code.
right.
That I would love to see defined. We'd all love to see it defined, but I think that that's part of that greater zoning code rewrite
Right.
that we've been talking about. And I know you've been discussing it while I've been away, but that's super important. I think that I would stay targeted at this point And I think when we talk about medical office, we are speaking of it in the traditional medical doctor office, a professional office for medical doctors. I'm sure that with Sylvia's help, we can get to maybe some other nuanced uses within medical. And if we need to be explicit about other types of uses that maybe could fall within medical, but we don't necessarily want to have those, we can be prepared to discuss that at second reading.
Okay. And then my second point was going to be with respect to limiting personal services to Hook Square. So we have no choice but to talk about One Curtis Parkway because that's what we're talking about. The Hook Square part of One Curtis Parkway and also across the street where Prime Fitness and those are, that's a different vibe in terms of pedestrian walking. You know, like Canal Street is going to have a wide sidewalk with parking in front of it. When you turn that corner on Hook Square, you're not going to have the curb cut parking there. It's going to be probably a narrower sidewalk and that's facing the other, businesses on Hook Square. So I don't have a problem with limiting personal services to only that area because I don't think it detracts from what the spirit of what the overlay was. And when we talk about what was the spirit of requiring restaurant and retail was what you guys were mentioning, right? Is we want pedestrian traffic and people kind of walking and that kind of thing. So I don't have an issue with limiting personal services to just that area.
Okay. Do the chair want, George, did you want to talk? I just had two
go ahead.
proposals.
That's fine.
Okay, so before I go ahead and move on with this ordinance, I just have two proposed changes and I would like to see if I can get consensus from the council. One of them is the verbiage of on letter 3E, line item 87. Actually, sorry, 89. It says veterinarian use may be located 0.25 airline miles from the front door of an existing veterinarian use. I like that to be 0.30 because there was like a very small gap between 0.25 airline miles and the actual airline miles of the size of the actual gateway. So just for nooks and crannies and variance purposes, I like to amend that to 0.30, which we would go from 1,000 in feet. The 0.25 airline miles is 1,320 feet to the 0.30 would be 1,584 feet. Just to really rule out a bigger gap because I can see where this can be tested. And then the second one would be for the personal services or was it? And I had two questions there, but anyway, for the personal services, it says business hours between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. I did research most of these medical facilities and personal service businesses. They close at about 6 o'clock, and obviously they may take a last appointment and then they close up shop by 8. So I would like to see a closure of 8 p.m. And that will also, I think, the availability of parking usage for our restaurants and our other businesses that are actually going to be open. And then I don't know why we limited the business hours to personal uses and not veterinarian as well.
So the person, okay,
I don't know.
just a little bit of background how the drafting, behind the drafting, these uses are carefully extracted from the CBD, which is the overall district, which is this based on, and then just put here for first floor uses. Under the CBD, personal services reads exactly as you see it, except for the last portion, which says along Hook Square frontage only. So under the CBD, personal services, examples, barbershop, beauty parlors, physical therapy clinics, with hours of business between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. is exactly the language.
Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna tailor, I'd like to tailor this a little bit more. I don't know if you guys are on board with 8 p.m. 6 a.m. to 8 p.m.
I wouldn't want to change it so that it's incongruous with what's already in place in the central business district. I would want it to
But I
Yes.
think that we were just saying earlier that the gateway is separate. I mean, for this particular building, it's separate from the CBD restrictions, right?
This is an overlay on top of the CBD.
Right.
Yes.
But in essence, the gateway has an ordinance in itself. So in this case, we can make modifications to the hours of operation.
So I think what Roger was trying to explain is that in the CBD, the reason that he did not include hours of operation for veterinary clinics is because under the CBD, you already have veterinary clinics providing, which may provide short-term boarding for medical purposes only for no more than 48 hours. Other than that, there's no start and end time for the business. Whereas for personal services, it does have that restriction already in the CBD from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. So if you were to go as you're proposing from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., you would be making it more restrictive than your CBD district. So
Well-
if you had the same type of store, if you had a beauty parlor in the CBD in an area that's not in the gateway, you would be able to be open from 6 to 10 and you would be limited in your hours in the gateway.
Okay, so I know it's in our future to reconstruct the CBD. So I just want to make a point that I would like to reduce that from 10 p.m. to 8 p.m. because that's dead anyways. And if I think it's just gonna help logistically, if we want to really, I mean, we're doing an ordinance change. I'm gonna be honest with you. We're doing an ordinance change to help. But in all honesty, we haven't even given this building hasn't even launched. So I don't even know what its actual potential is. I just know that I have potential tenancy wanting to come into the building, which is great, but it wasn't its intended use.
So I
I
have
want to
a
make people happy,
point of order,
but make
Point of
a
order.
decision now.
just a point of order, Council.
This is just.
There's a motion on the floor with
Mhm.
a second.
Second.
To the vote.
You're proposing an amendment to that motion,
Mhm.
right? So, Councilman?
Yeah.
But they.
No.
No.
No, I'm okay with the motion
It's
as,
it's up to the,
Yeah,
Councilman.
absolutely. If the councilman wants to amend his motion, but otherwise his
yeah, no,
motion stands.
again, I wouldn't want to restrict it more than what's already in place for personal services in the central business district.
And then as to the other requested change on the airline miles,
Uh,
accepting that amendment or not?
two amendments. yeah.
I'd have to,
I already went over this with Roger. That's why I went that technical.
I mean, is it correct? I mean, if she's right, then why? I mean, I don't know. I think you guys put the 0.25.
It's up to him.
I'd like to leave it as is and then, and then if we
Motion on
need
the
to,
floor
yeah,
stands.
and a second.
Call the
And
question.
the second.
Call-
Just to be very clear, though, Vice Mayor Santine's definition, you did want that incorporated into your
Yeah, I mean,
the medical office definition.
Yes, I do that.
I have no objection to the point, but you just put it up.
Objection to
Putting
the
0.30.
operation hours.
Zero.
Oh,
It's out of order,
Hmm.
but call the question. Call the vote.
Okay, I guess, well,
so
are we
your
gonna,
question
so in
was,
reference to the medical and the definition of
Right.
medical use,
yeah, I mean,
we would have
Your
to
I
make.
guess that's my amendment.
Okay, so let me restate the motion as I think Roger and I
Yes.
understand it.
right.
The motion is a motion to recommend approval of the ordinance as drafted with a clarification on what medical use is.
To the extent to which we could do it, right? Because when I said that I felt like that was something that should be explored. You said that you have to be cautious with how you
Yeah, we're gonna.
start to define things because it could be a rabbit hole that you go down. So to the extent to which that could be done, I'm okay with how it is as drafted. I motion that we approve it and we have a second.
And your second still stands.
I
because there
second
was
it.
a
Yes,
split
yes,
there.
yes.
Okay.
Okay, let's call for vote.
Vice Mayor Santin,
No,
Councilwoman Bravo,
No.
Councilman Fahet,
Yes.
clarification of
Councilman
something.
Vasquez.
Yes.
The motion fails.
I thought the
Vice
mayor was on.
Mayor,
I thought we're just,
She can't speak.
She's not. Okay.
So what happened?
I think that through the chair, I'm sorry. I think that we want to maybe
medical clear,
amendments.
the rest of them fine.
It can't hurt to have these amendments. I mean,
Can I get a point of clarification? No, you got to give us a second, Captain. Got to give us a second. So I think I just heard the vice mayor say that the concern he had was with the defining medical, but didn't we just say that that's what we were going to try to do?
You're gonna do some meeting later
Yeah,
on.
yeah,
if
no,
we don't
moving
Define.
The-
For the
Okay.
next reading.
The
Okay,
motion-
fair enough. Okay, I just change my.
So are you changing your vote?
Yes.
Okay, and just so that everybody understands, the idea is that obviously not for the first reading, which is now at 7 o'clock,
Right.
but between first and second reading, we'll come back with some language that further clarifies what medical is intended to be.
Okay. Just saying, for me, it's super important. So
No, I
it's fine as
understood.
long as, you know.
Yeah, no, I was behind you on
I
that.
think that's across the
Okay,
board,
no, fine.
so,
Then I'm willing to change
So
my
your
vote.
vote is
Change
changing
my vote.
to yes.
Yes.
okay.
Okay.
And Councilwoman Bravo,
Councilwoman?
your.
I'll
vote
wait
is-
till second reading.
Okay.
But your vote remains the same.
Yes.
Okay,
your
so
vote
it's a
remains no.
3-1. Okay, so the
I
motion
want to see it
carries.
clear.
Okay, so the motion passed.
Yes, motion carries. Yes.
We got to do it again at 7 o'clock.
Okay, now we have the six.
Oh, yeah. So
Meeting,
This m-
Vice Mayor,
is-
this meeting is
meeting's
adjourned and
I guess.
start the
Let's
six
start the,
forty-five.
Special.
All right. So I guess,
The 6:45.
Erica, anybody else online right now?
No, just
No
the
one's-
attorneys.
We have to do a pledge of allegiance.
Okay, so, I guess we'll.
So you want to call that meeting to order, Vice Mayor?
Yeah, so let's call today on September 11th, 2023, the special meeting.
Oh, he wants to sign for the.
For this,
For this, yeah.
All right,
Captain, this is not the council meeting. It's the, you want the 6:45 one?
6:45,
Okay,
okay.
Yes, you can sign them.
All right, so. All right,
Vice Mayor,
so
you call the
call this-
meeting? Pledge of allegiance?
call the roll?
We don't have to call the roll again, do we?
No.
No.
No, we don't? Okay, so please stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Nos pusimos de pie para usted.
Is this the council meeting?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so we started here early for the other one, but we got any public comments? Erica? Anybody sign for public comments in reference to the special meeting?
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Nihal Pereira. I reside at 217 Duval Drive. And due to the situation with the economy worldwide, I do speak in favor of the resolution to raise the required levies for the trash and garbage. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, if you can say the resolution for public.
This is a public hearing item 3A on your 6:45 agenda. This is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Miami Springs, Florida, providing for the collection of garbage, trash, and recycling service fees using the uniform method of collection of non-ad valorem revenues, providing for fees and maximum fees for garbage, trash, and recycling services, directing the preparation of a final assessment roll, confirming initial rate resolution, providing for equalization, filing, and lien on properties to be assessed, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. Roger will introduce the item, and I believe our partner Lori Smith Lala, who is a municipal finance lawyer, is also here to answer any questions you may have.
Good evening again, council members. So as you might recall, in early August, we brought forth an item setting this date as a public hearing for the official adoption of our increased solid waste fees. As a reminder, we collect our solid waste fees using the trim bill. That's under the Uniform Method of Collection Act in the Florida statutes. In order to utilize the Uniform Method of Collection Act, we are required to provide particular notice, both mailed and published, in order to increase the fees. So early on, even before that meeting in August, we had a meeting to increase our fees, and we realized that the county was no longer providing the required notices under Florida's law. And so today you are here to adopt the increased fees that you adopted in June, and we'll be confirming them. You will also be setting a maximum rate for solid waste fees. This maximum will not be collected this year. The maximum is for declaring a maximum for future years so that we do not have to notice via mail and a newspaper again every single year. The maximum charges are not going to be charged this year. Only what was adopted in June and is being today.
We have a
Through
motion.
Chair. Motion to approve resolution A.
Second.
Any discussion? The mayor,
Yeah.
she's chiming in.
Yes, I'm voting yes.
Okay, no, we're not there yet.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay, so no further discussion. Call the vote.
Vice Mayor Santin,
Yes.
Councilwoman Bravo,
Yes.
Councilman Fahet,
Yes.
Councilman Vasquez.
Yes.
And Mayor Mitchell voting yes. The motion carries.
Okay. So Tracy, this meeting. Okay, ready.
So that meeting is adjourned. and
This
you guys
meeting's
can start your
adjourned.
7 o'clock.
Thank you, council.
Okay, now we gotta.
We have to do it again. Yes.
Third meeting. Okay. Okay, we're good. Okay. Call to order this city council regular meeting on September 11th, 2023. First,
Invocation. Invocation.
invocation is after the
Roll call.
call.
Roll call. Roll
Roll
call.
call. We have to do roll call.
Sorry.
Mayor Mitchell, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so she's here. Vice Mayor Santin,
I'm just a little delayed.
Councilwoman Bravo,
Yes.
Councilman Fahet,
Here.
Councilman Vasquez.
Here.
There is a quorum present.
We have anybody that can, yeah, we'll go to the invocation. Anybody that can't rise, we're gonna do the invocation and please rise for it.
We pray this evening for the agenda set before us and ask that we be granted the ability to work together in harmony when there's honest disagreement and dissent. We ask for the strength to speak up when given the opportunity to speak and the patience to listen receptively and empathically when it's time to listen. We ask for the wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and issues that we encounter and a keen sense of the welfare and needs of our residents. May we be reminded that we're not only leaders, but also servants, and that it's our responsibility to serve the common good of all the residents of Miami Springs. Amen.
Yes, in memory of today, a special memory to September 11th, 22 years ago, and the attack on our country. Pledge allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands,
One nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah, I guess order of business would be the awards and presentation. So here. You first, okay. All right, so agenda item 4A, swearing in of ceremony for the new police officer, Stephen Torres, by the police chief, Councilman.
Vice Mayor, members of the council, Mr. Manager. I've always said two of the favorite things that I like to do is one is promoting personnel, and the other one is swearing in new officer. So right now I'd like to call Stephen Torres. Stephen is a graduate of Miami Springs High. He has his bachelor's degree from Barry University in business administration with a major in management, and he played baseball for Miami Springs High and Barry University. He worked at the rec center, and he's not the first person that I bring over from the rec center as a police officer, and they've done an outstanding job. So in the police academy, he was appointed class leader, which is a great honor. He's the first Miami Springs officer in the police academy to be the class leader. He took the top physical fitness award and the top gun shooting award. So with that said, I'm going to swear him in. But before that, I know he's joined by his family, his mom, his dad, his brother, girlfriend. And if I missed anybody else, I'm sorry, but welcome. And thank you for being here. Stephen, would you please raise your right hand and repeat after me? I, Stephen Torres, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Florida against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear truth, faith, and allegiance to the same, to uphold and enforce the laws of the United States, the State of Florida, the County of Miami-Dade, and the City of Miami Springs. I take this obligation freely, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of police officer of the City of Miami Springs, acting to the best of my ability. So help me God. Congratulations. I believe that Stephen has your girlfriend to put in the badge. Come on up. With that said, to the Torres family, I interview lots of people for the position of police officer, but not very many of them make it here. So I congratulate you, because the foundation that you've instilled in this young man is the type of individual that I want representing the Miami Springs Police Department. So you've done a great job, you and the rest of the family supporting him. So I want to thank you in advance for letting me borrow him for Christmas, holidays, birthdays. You know, while everybody's having a good time, he'll be working, protecting the citizens and the community of the City of Miami Springs. Thank you.
A little technical difficulty.
I thought you said you practiced this. No pressure.
They could just hold it on.
There you go. Take some pictures.
You can have the whole family come up and take a picture, and then we'll do it.
I
with the
also want to
council.
thank the members of the Springs Police Department. A lot of them are here on their own time. We also have, and he's here just about every swearing in ceremony, Officer Julian Cotto from Miami, City of Miami Police Training Staff. Most of you know that I did 31 years with the City of Miami. So when I go back to the city to his graduation, and my colleagues who are now high-ranking members of the department are praising me of the type of caliber of the young man that he is, that means a lot. And it, you know, to have that come from my former colleagues of 31 years ago. So thank you, Stephen.
The family can come up, take a picture. Family?
You guys want to come up? Yeah, of course. You want to come up? No, just step over.
Hey, la abuelita. La abuelita.
Let's make a photo.
Already.
Ah, okay.
No, right?
You know. Good job. No, and I'm not.
Including this assignment, that's me.
Well.
That's something. Not anything to be proud of. Yes, no. So they can have the back.
Two. That's front runner. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so now proclamation. Okay. Okay, so we're going to move to agenda B, presentation and proclamation by Sylvia Vanni, co-founder of the Mystic Force Foundation, nonprofit charity raising awareness for Childhood Cancer Research Month.
Yeah, she's in the back. Yes.
She's in the back?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Come up.
Huh?
Go up there and give it to her.
Yeah, if you want to read a few lines or.
Okay. Well, thank you. It's an understatement of the things that you're doing for the childhood cancer. We know some other groups that are doing the same, and it's a great cause, and we're all super supportive. We really appreciate it. So this proclamation by the mayor and the city of Miami Springs, whereas September 11th, in this case, has been designated, it's the whole month of September has been designated National Childhood Cancer Awareness Month to honor those children whose lives have been lost and irrevocably impacted by this terrible illness, and to strengthen the nation's resolve to search for a cure. We thank you.
Thank you.
That's why I kept. Especially for the record, like. Okay.
One more. Okay, so ready to move to agenda 4. Well, is 4C is Timothy?
Timothy Watson?
Is he here?
I don't know.
He is here?
I don't see him.
He's not here? Okay, so we're gonna move on into agenda item number D, which is the Yard of the Month Award. Today, September 11th, 2023, to 1200 Westford Drive and Maxima Beckham.
She was not able to attend tonight, so we'll make sure to get her the award.
All right, oh, good. So open forum, we have anybody to speak?
You have the list on your.
Oh, I do have it. I'm sorry, I apologize. Okay, first, Captain Hal Pereira.
Good evening to you all, and I know Madam Mayor is on video. First, I'd like to congratulate the new city manager, our Chief Executive Officer, Mr. J.C. Jimenez. Congratulations on choosing a great aviation community of Miami Springs. We appreciate it. I'd like to also thank the entire City Council, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor Santin, Councilwoman Jackie Bravo, Dr. Walter Fugit, and Dr. Victor Vasquez. You all had a tremendous amount of work in the past 3.5 months. The fact that you all had to vet and choose a city finance director, as well as going over that. In addition to that, you chose a great city manager. Plus, we had the budget situation. And the reason I would like to speak is that it's important that we realize that we are in a quagmire worldwide. We had a 2-year situation in the world where COVID shut down the world. As a result, things didn't work as normal. One country took the lead in operating everything, and unfortunately, even a freight container that cost in 2019 $5,000 to ship to the United States, post-COVID went to $20,000. As a result, this is not a US problem, it's a worldwide issue, like I said earlier. Because of that, we have to be all aware that we elected all of you to represent the greatest community that I've ever lived in, the only one actually for 53 years. And sometimes you have to make tough calls. And we are in a situation right now that we need to do exactly what y'all did a few weeks ago. I got a letter explaining why the trash and garbage is going to go up this year. If we explain everything, I honestly feel like I did to my neighbors, that we have an issue and we are in a situation financially in this city budget that we are behind the 8 ball. So I'm in favor of explaining to the residents that we are doing something positive. After a long time, we have a great council here. Now we have two great individuals who are recently hired. We can do a lot more than we have done that I've seen in 53 years because of the 5 of you and the 2 new representatives. A change is necessary. With the changes of code, ordinances, and zoning that is being worked on now, if the residents are told about this, that soon, because of these changes, we will have revenue flowing into this city like never before, because I'm optimistic. Dr. Frederick is later going to talk about the Abraham tract. There's 26 acres there that I used to take off as a pilot of runway 9 left that is not directly over the flight path at all. They can build high stories over there. It doesn't affect the residents from Miami Springs, but we need to explain that to the residents. We can raise close to those 26 acres. Mr. Abraham is willing to build a parking garage that he now has leased to rent-a-car agencies. He can go to 6 or 7 stories without having an issue with the FAA. I walked from the center line of that instrument landing system on runway 9 left the other day, and I came to see that that should not impact, but the FAA would obviously want to be involved. That can satisfy his 10-year lease, from what I understand, with the parking of those cars on the south side of Abraham tract. On the north side, directly behind Baker Aviation, he can do a lot of things over there. Presently, my understanding is we are getting very little in revenue taxes. I believe the possibility exists that we can raise $500,000 just on Abraham tract alone. These things need to be explained in simple language to our residents. Additionally, with the zoning changes, all of Northwest 36th Street can go to high stories. There are different ordinances that are being looked at and codes that, thanks to y'all, have been looked at and being changed. All of these are positive things in the future for us to look forward to. In addition, Mr. Beckham is coming up with a tremendous $1 billion opportunity right there close to what I just referred to as the Abraham tract. So there are opportunities that apartments can go up there with no restrictions based on the FAA approval, of course. However, if you explain these things, people will accept what I'm about to say. The millage under the Miami-Dade County, I pulled the records, and via 0500, a millage code, 0600 is North Miami. Our millage is approved up to 6.99. Now, what that translates to the average homestead resident, like we all own homes here, so our taxes will go up by $62.48, which translates to $5.21 a month. If this was preliminarily explained the positive side, then tell the folks, here's what's going to happen, $5.21, so that we can continue to not be in the red as we are. Even with 6.99 millage rate, we are going to be in a deficit in the red of $594,639. That's still a bad number. For us to break even, if we continue this way and not raise it, even with the 6.99, we are going to be we are already, as I explained, over $500,000. In order to have a surplus and go into the black.
Sorry, Captain, I apologize, but
time.
We didn't have a little thing working today, but we've gone over the 3 minutes and
okay, all right.
We appreciate it.
All I want to say in closing is that I thank you. And we need to really consider voting for the 6.99.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
We have a second by the name of Eduardo Lazarus. Okay, thank you.
No, thanks for your time today. It's actually my first time ever speaking or coming to one of these, but I've lived in Miami Springs for 20 years. I've lived in Miami Springs for 20 years. Went to Springs High and Middle before that. So I think I'm probably one of those numerous people who lives here, is passionate, raise their kids and everything, but not really politically active. But the reason I came today is that just from speaking with, all my neighbors and friends throughout the years, I came today to speak on the matter of the police contract, and the conversations there, because I really think a lot of people I've spoken with is our police is pretty much under stress at this point. I mean, if you think about, or the way I think about it, is, we all live in Miami, which is a place that gets crazier and crazier and crazier every year. And within that, we live in this wonderful little place called Springs that's had its highs and lows over the last few decades, like they all do. But the one value that's always been consistent and never wavered is the safety we have here. I mean, this really is kind of safe harbor within Miami. Like no matter what craziness is going on, once you're in the Springs boundaries, the kids play. If you leave your door open, negotiations and the things. When you think about all the hotels they have to take care of now, the homeless, all the craziness that continues, and the inflation rate. I mean, we're the highest in the country at this point. There's a lot of strain. I think it's at a point where, as residents, we're really concerned about that. You know, and if safety waivers in Miami Springs, it's kind of taken the foundation out of the city. You know, so I just ask you to consider that, and that this is really a core value that Miami Springs brings to its residents decade after decade as we prioritize things within the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll move to agenda item 6 to approve council minutes. A, it's August 21st, 2023 budget workshop. Motion.
Motion to approve 6A and B.
Second that.
Call vote.
Vice Mayor Santin,
Yes.
Councilwoman Bravo,
Yes.
Councilman Behet,
Yes.
Councilman Vasquez.
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell,
Yes.
the motion carries.
Thank you. Okay. We don't have any reports from boards, right, and commissions today, so we're gonna go straight to agenda number 8, which is the public hearing. If we have any for the resolution.
Vice Mayor, with the council's permission, I'm going to go ahead and read 8A and 8B into the record. And what I'll recommend is that while we do have to take separate votes on the items and the vote on the millage needs to occur before the vote on the budget, that you can have discussion on both at the same time. So 8A is a resolution of the mayor and the city council of the city of Miami Springs, Florida, adopting the proposed millage rate for fiscal year 23-24 in the amount of 6.9100 mils, which is 10.79% higher than the rollback rate of 6.2370 mils to balance the general fund for fiscal year 23-24 and providing for an effective date. Public hearing item 8B is a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Miami Springs, Florida, adopting a tentative budget for the fiscal year commencing October 1st, 2023 and ending September 30th, 2024, confirming the date of the second public hearing and providing for an effective date.
Okay,
Mr. Vice Mayor, if I may.
Sure.
First of all, I appreciate you guys and thank you very much for the opportunity to serve as your manager. This is my first meeting. Sorry. This is my first meeting. And from when I started last week, you know, we've been obviously focusing on the budget. Clearly.
Just move it right in front of you. There you go. If you move a little bit to each side, we lose you.
I got you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't know it was that sensitive. Obviously, I've been following along since you guys appointed me until I started last week. Clearly, obviously, we have a budget shortfall, as the captain indicated. With the rollback that was added at a recent commission, not with the rollback, I'm sorry, with the wish list that was recently added at a recent commission meeting let me see here, the 6.91 mils, we have a deficit of $1.10278 million. Okay. At the cap at 6.99, the deficit would be a little under $1 million at $988,256. I asked Chris just so that we can take a step back and really get a clear picture of where our finances are. I asked him to calculate what the millage would need to be in order for us to be completely balanced. And he told me it was about 7.6. What we decide tonight, whatever we decide to take out of reserves, because obviously we're going to have to take something out of reserves. Whatever we take out of reserves, I will be starting next budget year in that hole. So cuts will be made. Tough decisions are ahead of us. But that's just the reality of where we are right now. I wanted to say that because I need to, first and foremost, let you know that next budget process is going to be a little different. I'm going to change it up. And when I come before you, you're going to have decisions to make, but all the cutting and all that will have taken place. But we're in a tough situation. I just wanted to explain that to you because moving forward, you're going to see some tough cuts and some tough decisions that are going to be made. I will make them, present them to you for your execution, but that's the reality we're in. So thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Richard.
Sure.
Thank you, City Manager, and welcome aboard. Hey, it's me, Miami Springs. It's the hurricane season, so welcome aboard. I have been through 3 budget seasons at Miami Springs, and this is my 3rd. This has been the hardest. This has been the one that's kept me thinking about the city longer than anything else that I could think of. And it's the point that the city manager made is glaring. It's important that we understand where we are financially, right? There is a significant gap between what comes in revenue and what we spent, right? So think about your home budget, how much you make, how much you spend, try to balance that the best way possible. Everyone likes Miami Springs services, myself included. All right, I appreciate 24/7 police coverage of our city, our public works department, our recreation center, everything. People come and visit Miami Springs. They love the way it looks. And that's important because it keeps us running. It keeps us looking the way that we want to look. And everybody wants that, right? And I do too. But right now, right, it costs money to do all of this. Of course it does, salaries and benefits and all these things. I just want to reiterate that we are not bringing in the revenues that we need to sustain what we do, okay? This is what the manager is telling us. And that is one of the things that's kept me awake and thinking about this. How do we do this? Because yes, long-term, we want to do an aggressive development plan. Abraham Trackley will talk later and all that to bring the revenues in, right? Greater. And in fact, if we bring in larger numbers of revenue, we might be able to lower the millage rate even lower, as some other cities have done, and been able to keep the services because they get money from development. And so we have to have a conversation. I know we're going to be talking about whether we want to lower the millage rate right now, but I think longer term, we need to have a conversation so that we understand where we are and the residents understand where we are. And you all know, I don't need to tell you, everything's gone up. My car insurances, my mortgage insurance, everything has gone up. And in my house, we have to account for that, right? In terms of the revenues that we bring in to the house to keep us afloat. And so when you compare, a lot of people we got compared a lot to Miami Shores as a city, kind of the same size and so forth. Their millage rate is like 7.6. I know nobody wants to hear these numbers, right? Because it means raising the millage on the resident. But if we don't come to terms, and because there is only one pile of money, one bucket of money, we are running the city on a deficit. And there'll be a motion, I suppose, before you on this point about lowering the millage rate. Now, we're already going to use money to get, to do some things that we have to take care of and some high insurance costs and all that. But frankly, I don't think this is the moment to lower the millage rate. So let me just explain real quickly what that means. If we lower the millage rate, that's going to be less money. Right, Mr. Manager?
More.
That comes in,
If you lower the millage rate, you're cutting your revenues down a little.
cutting the revenues down. So that's an extra, let's say $150,000 we don't have. Right? Want to take it from the reserve? That's one thing, but you can only do that once. The millage rate is set. If it's set at that number. And I would prefer that we held the line. If we are not going to increase the millage rate, we should hold the line where we are. Because if we lower the millage rate to the proposal, we're going to need about $120,000, $150,000 to make that up. Normally, ladies and gentlemen, at any budget, your budget, my budget, right, our budget, if you're going to lose revenue, you got to go across to the other side of the ledger and say, okay, where do I cut from? I don't like using that word, right? But this is a basic tenet of balancing budgets. You got less of this, you got to lower this here, right? Or hit your bank account, which is the reserve. So I'm very concerned about this. I think we need to have a longer term conversation about millage. But right now, the situation that we're in, and oh, by the way, we have a collective bargaining agreement that we're still working on with the police department, and that's part of our budget. I think at the bare minimum, we should leave the millage rate right where it is. I would like to see it go up so we can get more revenues, but at the basic level, leave it right where it is and not lower the millage rate. Thank you.
To the chair. Am I entitled to make a motion to amend the resolution before us to increase to our cap? So I'd like to make a motion to increase the mills to 6.99. I know it's not going to get us out of a deficit, but I also know that there's things that I need to give to my departments and I'll still be in a deficit. So that's my explanation for that. I don't know how the council feels about this.
So your motion is to, and we just need to crunch what those numbers would be for announcement purposes and prior to taking the vote. And I want to confirm with the city manager or the finance director that 6.99 is the millage cap.
That is correct.
Okay, so
I believe it's 6.999. No?
6.99.
0.9900.
6.9900. Okay, thank you.
okay, so if the finance director could provide what the percentage rate.
That would be 12.07 above rollback.
Okay, so then the resolution would be adopting the proposed millage at 6.9900, which is 12.07% higher than the rollback rate of 6.2370 mils. Is there a second?
Second.
So I have a point for discussion. Okay, thank you. Okay, so when we had our last budget meeting, it was our third budget meeting. We were supposed to have two and we had an additional budget meeting. And when the consensus was at the end of that meeting, because we had this discussion, and the consensus was that we were going to come back to this meeting and we were going to decide between lowering the millage rate, we were going to get the numbers to lower it 0.05, which is what the mayor proposed, or a tenth, which is what I proposed. I'm no longer proposing a tenth because it was going to cost us $150-ish thousand. But I am going to support what the mayor had proposed, which was lowering it by 0.05, which was going to cost us roughly about $7,500. So a couple points I want to make about that, besides the fact that we're going back on what our consensus was from the last budget meeting. So again, just to be clear for everybody who's listening, the Government Finance Officers Association recommends that the city have 15% of budgeted expenditures, annual budgeted expenditures, as a cushion, as reserves. We as a city actually are 10% above that, where we by ordinance are at 25%. So we have even more cushion. And then above and beyond that, we were at about $1.3 million above the $7 million in extra cushion. So we had excess over that. So I get it, right? We were in the red. We tried to cut. We attempted to cut, but the only way that we were going to balance the budget, right, was to either go to 7 point something and go above the cap, which we can't do, or we'd go into that excess over the reserves. And that is what we did. As we went through the budget process, we found things, we tried to cut as much as possible. Obviously, there were some things that were unanticipated, a great deal of insurance increases because of the storms that hit last year on the West Coast. But we also went through the, wish list, quote unquote, and we got certain things. And, we got, some vehicles that were much needed in public works and the parks and recs. We also crunched numbers about the collective bargaining we're doing with the police. I feel, and you guys are here and you know how the mayor feels about, the not breaking that trajectory that we have of lowering the millage rate, even if only a little bit. And I'll let her speak to that when she gets the opportunity. But I too feel like we need to lower the millage rate because we took care of people and we continue to take from the excess in the reserves that we have a healthy reserve above what the Government Finance Officers Association says. And we took from there to balance a budget, to give some people things. And I think that it would be a travesty to leave out the taxpayers and the residents of our city and not give them a little bit of relief from the millage rate. So I have heard said, well, if you're going to give them a 0.05 tax break in the millage that you pay, that our millage is only like a certain percentage of the overall tax. That's not, what difference is that going to make? It's going to be insignificant, but raising it to the cap, raising it from 6.91 to 6.99 is going to be significant. I argue that it won't be. Okay. What I do know is that, yes, the millage rate and what residents pay is only a small part of what they pay. But guess what? Everything else is doing. Everything else is going up. Fees are going up. What the county is charging is going up. Everything is going up. And I know from speaking to the residents, not everybody has a government job, right? Some people actually are making less this year than they made last year. People in private business, some people, they don't get a COLA increase every year. We gave a COLA increase to our employees. So I think it would be insulting to give, and try to help out people. And we tried to do it conscientiously. I'm not saying that we're just giving it away, but then to just decide we're not going to give something to the residents, I think that that's totally unfair. I think that that the millage rate is important. We have, I think it's the top 6 or 7 highest millage rate out of 34 municipalities in the county. I think that we owe it to the residents to lower it, even if only a little bit, even if only symbolically. Okay. But going in the opposite direction and raising when other people got a little something, I can't support that at all. The consensus at the end of that last meeting, we had this whole discussion
Through the chair.
was that we were going to lower it. And now we're talking about raising taxes. So I just want to be clear that what we're talking about doing here, okay, is we're justifying raising taxes to the residents, okay, even though we're taking from the same pot of money that we're saying that we shouldn't to take care of other departments within the city and to give increases, COLA, cost of living increases to our general employees, which I'm in favor of, but I cannot support.
If I could, Councilman, and I'm sorry, I'm going to ask if I can speak a moment because I'm about to get into an Uber and I'm not so sure.
Yeah, go ahead, Mayor.
Okay. Councilman Fahed, I am 100% in agreement with everything you've said. And I want to make some quick points. One of them is we keep talking about we need investment in Miami Springs. We need to figure out how on 36th Street and Abraham Track, how we can get large investment corporation to invest in there. And let me tell you, the one thing that they're going to look at is, okay, their millage rate right now is 6.91. That's high, but it's not going to go any higher because in over 10 years, 12 years, it has never gone higher. So when they're willing to make an investment in our city, and I'm talking about large corporations and large developers, which is what we're seeking to increase our revenues, if they can't know that the bottom line is it may be high, but it will not go higher than that because in over 10 years, it has not gone higher, they won't invest. That's right off the bat. They have to budget. So they need to know that they can count on whatever our millage rate is, it will not go up from there. The other thing that I want to make the other point that I want to make is, yes, it's tough right now. It's tough. We had to hire a finance director. We had new department director positions, the increases in in insurance and workers' medical costs. And also, the other thing is inflation was high last year. We gave employees a 4% COLA, much higher than we've given in the past years. It's always been 3%, which is still very significant to give a 3% COLA every year. This year, we're talking about doing that again for the employees. And no one values our employees more than I do. But we've added a lot of things on this budget that I don't think are that responsible. A new police officer. No one would like to have more police officers than we have, but we have no increase in population. The hotels are the same. In fact, hotel crime is going down. There's no real significance of, reason that we need to have these added expenses. It's okay. The council, we did a consensus at the workshop and the members voted for that, but I agree with Councilman Fahet. What we agreed to at the last budget workshop was whether we would lower the millage by 1 or by 0.05. And that was it. And I think that is extremely important. Do you really think if we increase our millage this year, is it going to get better next year? That's a spiral we will never get out of because we are adding new costs to the city. And next year, they'll magically disappear, or we have to fund those the new expenses that we're adding to the city with this budget. So this is a spiral that we will just continue to go up, because we'll never be able to bring it back down. The trajectory that our city has, and it's our city's reputation, not mine, our city's reputation is that for over 10 years, the trajectory has been, we have a high millage rate, it's going down. The other point I wanted to make is we say, well, out of 34 municipalities in Miami-Dade County, we're number 5, 6, or 7. I don't know, it varies depending on the other cities and their millage. But look at the list of cities that are in that top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and see if that's what we want to emulate, or if we want to emulate the other 20-something cities. And somehow they have the same situations that we have, and they're able to continually add to their cities, increase development, and reduce their millage rate and keep it down to something that is high. So yes, we're not the highest, but I want you to look at those other cities that are higher than us and see if that's where you want to be in that top end, or if you want to be in the middle and hopefully sometime in the future down to the bottom. So I've said it before. And I'll say it again, I will not vote to increase the millage. My vote will be no. And, of course, it's a consensus, it's some democracy, but my vote will be no. And in fact, I won't vote for anything unless we are lowering it by even if it's the 0.05. But we have to keep on track for that. We have a responsibility for our residents to continue that, to show them that we're fiscally responsible and that it's not going to get better next year. So if we're raising it now to meet costs, then, what will it be? Next year, we'll have to raise it more because things will keep spiraling. We have to make sure that we can live within our means, and living within our means is the only way we can do that is to attract investment in our city. And for big time investors in our city to come, they need to know that our millage rate is not going to go, 1 year up, a little bit down, another year higher and higher. And there's, they can't count on it. With that, thank you very much.
You want to finish your
Yeah, I just wanted to finish. Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to, 2 last points. We were looking at some numbers that were given to us about what the average household would pay an increase if we raise the taxes. And it's on a scale. It depends on your assessed value. And so we've got people that have been living here for 20, 30 years and they're paying a certain amount of taxes, right? But what about the people that are moving in? It's very unfair because their assessed value is going to be much higher because we want to bring people into this community. And I think that sticking it to them by raising the millage rate is just a bad precedent. And the last thing and it's really a question for Chris. If we lower the millage by 0.05, will we not still have unused fund balance in excess of the 25% in our reserves? We are not going to use it all up. So we're still going to have an excess over and above the 25%, which is above the 15%, which is recommended by the Government Finance Association. Is that not the case, that we'll still have some unused fund balance?
Based on in the memo I previously gave you at the budget workshops, with the approximate number of 1.3, if you lower the millage to 6.9050, you'll be using 1.17904 of the 1.3. So you would still have some excess.
So you'll still have some excess. Again, this will be the last thing I say. I don't see how we can be up here and help out different departments and different groups as we do this budget. And yes, it was a tough process, and just decide, well, for the residents, we're just going to raise it because they're not going to, it's not our money. I've heard people say like, oh, you're just talking about a certain amount of, but they're not our dollars. I don't know how we could do that. We're not being irresponsible. We're still going to have excess unused fund balance. I don't see how we can justify anything that we've done to this point, and then we're going to turn our back to the residents and raise the millage rate. I just think it's a very, very bad precedent, and I will not support that.
Through the chair. I have 3 points I want to make. I'm sorry.
Sure.
So on the last meeting, when we were talking about the millage, I beg to differ because Mayor wanted to get consensus on the 6 point, whatever you guys were talking about. And I remember very clearly, we said that we didn't want to make consensus. So whatever you guys went with in your minds that day, I'm sorry if I missed it, but I don't recall that. Number 2, if we're talking about living within our means, we're literally lowering the millage rate to be in a deficit. So the city is living out of their means right now. I don't care how much cushion we have. If we're not breaking even, we're not doing great. That's just me. Lowering the millage rate with a surplus would be ideal, but it's going to be a long haul till we get there. So I still stand by my amendment on the resolution. I'm in between all these papers here. Resolution 8A to amend to 6.99. And I believe I have a second.
I do.
I want to have,
I
I wanted to say something. Like to me, sorry, I don't think we're insulting the residents, and I definitely don't think that we're doing them an injustice by being fiscally responsible. We don't have a crystal ball, and yeah, we've been fortunate for many years to have frugal city manager and council, and that doesn't mean that things can't get worse quickly. We got it. You already see how our all insurance continues to go up because our risk premiums for the insurance for hurricanes have gone higher. One storm gets here, we're still ways away from that having an end to this season. We're talking about even being more irresponsible. There's stuff that comes up. I mean, I couldn't remember one of the wish list that we did cut off, which was the one of the pool pump, was it, or the heater. He was basically saying that we're around the corner of $100,000 possible cost. I mean, we're talking about constant things that we have no idea that what could happen in the future. But one thing we know is that we're basically borrowing from Paul to pay Peter. So to say that we're being irresponsible by, raising it from what some councilmen believe it's the right millage rate, I think it's wrong to say. Second of all, I truly do not believe that investors will not, I'm talking about what we're trying to have a major impact in our community, which is the commercial. Of course, all these numbers are part of their overall feasibility. But believe me, the most important thing is that we are not feasible because of the zoning that we have now. the change of that zoning, this millage rate is completely irrelevant. They will know that that's 699 because of the impact of a $400 million potential project will have. They themselves will not be seeing a 699. So to bring that argument, I apologize, Mayor, but it is not correct. The public will, the investors out there commercially will be looking at the zoning only. This millage rate have no effect. And to continue to talk about this annexation and the effect that they've had because of this millage rate, that we're going to have this going into what, 10 years, you're saying? I apologize, but I've talked to some of the owners in those areas, and it's not about the millage rate at the end of the day. They use it as an excuse. There's more to that, and it's a lot to do with who we are and who we can become. And I think if we show them that we are thinking about the future and thinking about the residents, because it could get worse. Just to think that we're going to keep kicking this can down the road. We've done it enough, but this time this can's gotten big enough that I don't think we could keep doing it. So this whole thing with reinvestment into our community, rezoning, first of all, construction costs and also financing has gone super difficult. So to just think that we're going to rezone all these areas and we're going to get an automatic increase, I think you're going to be realistic to think that it's going to take a while. Like more like 5 years from now. Maybe some sales of land will change in the next couple of years, which will have an impact on us. But overall, this millage rate, I think we were being really fiscally irresponsible. And I'm not insulting any of the residents. I'm looking after them, because there's so many things that we still have that we haven't even been able to tackle, and we've had to cut. I mean, we got a whole community that keeps talking about, pickleball, right? But obviously other stuff that are more important. But the point is, we're borrowing from Paul to pay Peter. So I completely, I'm in agreement that the resolution should be at 6.99.
Through the chair. Through the chair. Through the chair.
Sure. Sorry.
George is the chair.
First of all, we had those budget workshops. Councilman Fahed is completely correct. 3 times. What I'm saying here tonight about the revenues and I've raised that 3 times. I even raised it at the last council meeting. And I was told, no, there are other cities that blah, blah, blah. And in any event, we can talk about that on the 11th. So this is the 11th, right? Because here is where we take votes. We talked about different things to do. I didn't want to raise on this point, Resolution A, points from Resolution B, but since folks already talked about the budget, guys and ladies, we only have this much. And we spend this much. There's a difference, right? This is not about balancing anything on anyone's back, because as a resident told me recently, you're talking about this, he said, look, if that's the situation, then I don't mind paying a little bit more on my millage, because at the end of the day, we're all in this together. If this is our city, we're all in this together. And we are in a very difficult financial situation. And so since it was already raised, I'm gonna just put it out there that I don't want to take any more from the reserve, which the amount we're talking about is unprecedented. And the reserve is not something that replenishes that easily. I'm talking about taking 1.something million, 0.2 million. We spend this much and we've got this much. So the things that were added to the budget need to be taken out. We need to try to balance, close to balancing this as much as we can. And that's the way I see it. There's only 2 sides of the ledger: revenues and expenditures. And right now, our expenditures are like this.
So,
So I, through the chair,
okay.
my whole thing is consistency, right? Like, I don't want the hypocrisy. Everything that you guys saying is true, but we have not, that hasn't kept us from, when we had our last budget meeting, picking things that we thought were valuable enough that we would take more from the reserves. It can't be responsible to give an F-150 to Parks and Recreation. They deserve it. The Public Works, they need that vehicle. I get it. But that can't be responsible. And then it not like, if that's responsible, then raising taxes on the taxpayer, like if you guys are all arguing that it's irresponsible to leave the millage where it is or to lower it, but yet adding extra things, doing a 4% COLA to all employees, that's not irresponsible. It's the hypocrisy. And a year from now, we're going to be sitting here and we're going to be approving another budget. But what's going to be the difference? It's going to be an election year. I wonder if everybody's going to feel the same way when they're making this decision. We did a lot of hard work on the budget and we really tightened our belt and we said like, get this really, the must-haves, the needs, the wants versus the must-haves. And we decided on the things that were must-have, including we're in the process of collective bargaining with the FOP. I don't see how it all of a sudden becomes irresponsible to lower the millage rate 0.05, which is going to cost the city $7,500. Again, it can't be insignificant one way, but not the other. That's the incongruence that I see that just can't make sense. But again, you guys are entitled to your opinion. But again, not in favor of raising the millage rate and raising taxes on the residents, because I know that my brother, when he thought about moving from down south to Miami Springs, is like, no, you guys pay too much because your millage rate is like among the highest in the county. Okay. And remember, right? Somebody could tell you like, oh, I don't mind paying a little bit extra in my millage. Yeah, you've lived here for 30 years and your assessed value is like $230,000. But right. And you have a homestead. What about somebody who just bought here that for like $700,000? There's nothing in this town that's under 500,000. Like again, I don't see why we are now like deciding, oh, well, we have to be responsible now when it comes to, are we going to raise taxes or not, or lower it a little bit, or at least like you guys are saying, oh, well, we have to be responsible. We got to raise taxes. Where was all that virtue when we just spent 3 budget conference meetings talking about this? I don't see it. But again, everybody's entitled to their opinion. That one's mine.
Through the chair, just for the record, we're gonna roll back the record. I talked about this 3 times. True. 3 times. Okay. So I didn't say anything here tonight that I haven't said before. And like I said at the very beginning, those budgets workshops ended and I kept thinking about this. And I talked to the finance director and I talked to Tammy while she was still acting interim city manager. And I talked to the city manager when he was hired and had conversations and am I correct that I speak to you all about this continuously? So for the record, I've been consistent with that.
Does the mayor, she's back, does she call for vote?
Well, no, we're not done with discussion. Is there
Yeah, I
any
think,
more
okay.
discussion?
I don't have any more.
I think your microphone needs to be turned on.
Pardon me,
Your,
we have a motion.
no, a
Microphone.
microphone, your
Your
microphone.
microphone.
I heard that, and thank you for being patient with me. Amazingly, customs, we went right through. It was wonderful. Okay, I just wanted to say that also with inflation, we hear a lot about inflation. And supposedly right now, if you listen to the federal government, inflation is, coming down. It's melting down. It's coming down. Who knows? But I just don't see how we figure that we're going to be any better next year. And it comes back to exactly what Councilman Fahet, the point he made out.
We're supposed to have 15% reserve. We have 25%. Our city has said we're going to have 25% over what's required for cities to have. We're still going to have that. The reason for the reserve is for that. We're still meeting that. So this deficit back and forth that's the whole purpose of having a reserve, that you can draw on it and we'll build it at other times. And I think from what I've heard, there's a lot of momentum right now to try to get investment in our city, development in our city. You're right, Councilman. It's not going to happen overnight, but for cities to look at, and I've been working on this for a long time with the League of Cities and with other mayors and stuff, and the ones that have had the development, they've told me over and over, they have to know, the developers have to know that they can count on your city. They have to know that that your council is consistent and that your city is something that if they invest in, they can count on the future. And there's not a lot of metrics that, that can be used for those kinds of things that are overwhelming other than the millage rate. And again, I'd like you to look at the other cities that have a higher millage rate. And one other thing, and I heard somebody say we're closer to Miami Shores. I don't see us being.
I didn't say that.
Well, I mean,
No, I
compared to
said
other
that we
cities.
usually get compared.
Right. And
to
I
them,
don't see
and
that
they have
comparison
7
much because other than we're the same size, and they have a golf course and we have a golf course, we have a much better location than any city in Miami-Dade County, in my opinion. And we need to learn to use that. We have the best location. I keep saying this over. Councilwoman Bravo, you're in real estate. And I always hear the 3 words in real estate are location, location, location. We have it. We just haven't figured out how to maximize it. There's no other city that's better situated by bordering Miami International Airport and every single expressway that you can think of, you can get to it within 5 minutes from our city. And we need to concentrate on that. And I think that's a challenge for all of us, but I think we're all on board that we need to do that. A lot of the things on the budget, and I feel like Councilman Fahet did too. We had 3 budget meetings where we worked all this out. And now it's kind of like we're back to the first the first meeting where we set a millage cap. And that's where we're at. I'm not sure, where the process got lost. Councilman Vasquez, you said you've asked a lot. We all have. We've all been asking a lot on it. Ultimately, it's going to come down to a vote. This is a democracy. As I say, it'll come down to vote. I'm making it clear, whatever the vote is, I'll abide by it, of course, but my vote will be no unless we lower it, unless we make some lowering because we'll still meet our reserve.
And we'll have extra. We'll have excess unused fund balance
there's-
above and beyond the 25%.
And I don't see any reason that when we're here next year that we're going to magically say, well, now we can lower it. This is just going to continue going up because all these things that we're saying are, they're going to disappear, these expenses.
Through the chair, just 2 points I want to make. One is, and I guess we see the reserve differently, right? Because you take from the reserve, it doesn't come back right away. So next year, if we approve whatever it was, the millage, whatever it is, even at the high level, and then on resolution B, we vote for that budget, right? Our financial situation is going to be even more critical next year, and we don't have reserve money to pull from. So just a reminder of that. We are in a tough financial situation, right? And no one really likes any of the options here because I'm not even talking about cutting services. We are where we are. And it wasn't just the insurance. Yeah, that was a hit, and maybe it'll be a little lower. But if we vote the 2 things that were on here, on the agenda, we're going to be even more dire situation next year. If we increase the millage, it'll be a little less critical, but nothing gets us out of this situation unless we tighten the belt and make some tough decisions. The new city manager explained that next budget season, he foresees a different process, right? We didn't get a balanced budget. We got a budget that was in right? That was it kept us in the red. And then we had an exercise and I said, can we cut 5% here? And then it brought it back. But then we, went the other way with the wish list. Every budget situation I've ever been in other professions, there are people who are responsible for providing the decision makers a balanced budget. You may not like the balanced budget, okay? But the balanced budget means that your income and your expenditures match, right? That's basically what we do in my house, right? It's got, right? And that's where we have to get to. We're not there now.
Through the chair, we weren't there when we started the budget process. When we had our first budget meeting, we were $700,000 in the red. And everything that we decided to do to, vehicles like the police were asking for 5 new officers. We gave an officer and everything and all the benefits that came to that. We found a way to get them tasers. We did a filtration system at the pool. We couldn't do the heater because it was more expensive. We got vehicles for 2 departments. All of those things happened with the understanding that we were already in the red. So my whole thing is that we are now deciding enough is enough when the time comes to decide what the millage rate's going to be. And you guys, we have a motion and a second to raise taxes on residents when we have made decision after decision after decision, knowing that we were in a deficit, and we decided to take from reserves, okay, and increase that. And so now is when we're finding Jesus. Now is when we're drawing the line when it comes to a millage rate for residents. That is what it is. I understand. Everybody understands the math of, checks and balances, but we started with that understanding that we were in the red, and we decided to get more things because they were necessary. All I'm saying is, I think it's necessary to give a little bit of relief to the residents because everything is going up for residents. Garbage, fees, the county, prices, cost of living, everything is going up. And again, not everybody gets a cost of living increase in their jobs. Not everybody makes more the next year than they did the year before. But yet we're making these decisions, but we're going to draw the line now. And that's hypocrisy in my eyes.
Well, with all due respect,
Through the chair, I don't know where the term hypocrisy comes from because I was never on board with the 4%. We didn't have much more discussion there. We agreed to certain things, and I was really hot on the item of the heater for the pool, but I'm not going to continue the discussion. I would like to ask to the chair if there is a possibility we can call the vote very soon because
We can call a vote if there's no more discussion. All right.
Just want to bring up one more.
Yes.
And part of the unforeseen things that, because you say what our last meeting, but things have come up in information. If I remember, you can maybe correct me, Tammy, city manager, JC, or Chris, stormwater project that we have. There's possibilities that this project could be more, the one I think in Oakwood could be possibly a lot more than we anticipated. Right. And that would go back to going into borrowing from, Paul to pay Peter, correct? Is it possible? Right now, it looks like it's a good possibility because we're back without going into details. Right?
Yes, possibility.
Okay. So that's for me is the thing. We have no clear picture. And I think the future, unfortunately, doesn't look bright, including possible a couple of years of having these tough deficits. And where would that put us? Where that threshold at 25% would be if we had 2 more years like this. So I'm ready to call the vote.
Right. I just want to say I'm confused as to what the budget process was, and we started with this and we added all these things, and now all of a sudden it's like, we're backtracking. But I think we've all made our positions very clear on this. So call the vote, please.
Mayor, is there, it is a public hearing. Good evening. It is a public
Oh,
hearing.
okay, yes. So I will open it do I have to use the gavel? Open it for the public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to speak, even if you haven't signed up for the public hearing? You'd like to come up and speak? Mikey?
Mikey Gavilla, 223 North Royal Poinciana. I actually agree with Walter and the mayor just to lower it a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mikey. Yes, sir. Very briefly.
Well, you know who I am, but for the record, Nihal Pereira, 217 Duval Drive, Miami Springs, resident for 53 years. I said a lot earlier, I couldn't finish it. For us to balance this budget, we need to be at a high rate, and that millage number that you will through is I got the chart right there. I counted 10 cities that are higher than us. And I agree with the other three council people that we need to 6.99 is only $5.20 for the average homestead owner. My property is not as cheap as some others are lower, but it's going to be it's an average number. So 6.99 will help the city's budget. The experts are telling us we should listen to this. Just one gentleman has a master's in public administration. The other gentleman has a bachelor's degree. He was a
All right.
finance
Thank you,
manager. So
Captain.
I appreciate your discussion, but it's time to do the tough vote.
Thank
And
you.
that's why we elected you. Please raise it to 6.99 so we don't have a quagmire next year like the city manager said.
Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in the public hearing? All right, I will close the public hearing and ask you to call the vote.
I think
Vice
she's gonna
Mayor Smith.
clarify
And
something.
let's clarify.
Gonna clarify the resolution,
Oh, okay.
because there's numbers and stuff. Oh, you're gonna clarify the exact wording on the resolution, because you're talking about numbers or.
Or at least the
Just so we get clear what we're gonna vote for.
village
Okay.
that we're talking about.
Yes, so I'll go ahead and read. I have the resolution on the motion presented by Councilman Bravo and seconded by Councilman Vasquez is a resolution of the mayor and the city council of the city of Miami Springs, Florida, adopting the proposed millage rate for fiscal year 23-24 in the amount of 6.9900 mils, which is 12.07% higher than the rollback rate of 6.2370 mils to balance the general fund for fiscal year 2023-2024 and providing for an effective date.
Motion to approve.
Oh, that's done. All right.
I thought it was with the amendment.
Motion seconded by Vasquez.
Oh, call the vote,
Got it.
please.
Vice Mayor Santin,
Yes.
Councilwoman Bravo,
Yes.
Councilman Fahet,
No.
Councilman Vasquez.
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell.
No.
The motion carries.
All right, thank you. Okay, so do we need to call,
Also need a vote for, I
for
mean, a motion on the
8B?
budget as well. Yes.
okay. Heidi, do you want to call that out
I
again?
already read it earlier, so if you want to make a motion. If anyone wants to make a motion.
Motion to approve 8B.
Second that motion.
Let me ask you, I do have a question. Well, is there a second?
Vice Mayor
Walter.
Santin.
Okay, thank you. So how does this resolution tie in with the millage, Heidi or Chris?
We're actually confirming that now. I'm confirming that the exhibit that you have on your budget resolution would not need to be changed based on the higher millage that you the millage that you just voted on. And Chris is telling me that the resolution and the exhibit that's attached to it don't change. I'll let him explain why.
It goes back to the different scenarios that were discussed in the memos. With a budget of 6.99 mils, to balance the same exhibited budget, you have 23,000,005,129. You need 988,256 from reserves. The totals on the exhibit stay the same. It's just what amount you're pulling out of the reserves to add to the revenue to balance the budget.
What does that leave our excess at, Chris? Roughly?
If you on an approximate basis using the $1 million based off the original numbers of 1.3 would leave us approximately 300,000 above the 25%.
Thank you.
Okay, so the millage rate itself is not mentioned in this in 8B. It's just the results of it, right?
It's just approving the budget, the actual numbers
Right.
that you guys worked
Okay.
out.
So
The
that's what
millage
I'm
was
saying, that if we
previous.
vote yes or no on that, it's not really related to the millage rate. It's
correct,
just-
correct.
It stays the same. We
Same.
just have a
Okay.
different
Alright.
Whatever
unassigned
millage,
fund balance at the end.
whatever millage rate you would have picked,
If
that
that will
would have
stay
stayed the same.
Okay, thank you. And by the way, welcome.
No, thank you.
Thanks to tell you, JC. Okay, any discussion? We have a first and a second. Call a vote, please.
Vice Mayor Santin,
Yes.
Councilwoman Bravo,
Yes.
Councilman Behet,
Yes.
Councilman Vasquez,
No,
Mayor Mitchell.
Yes,
The motion carries.
okay. Consent
I'm sorry.
agenda.
Mayor,
Yes.
my apologies, unless I missed it. Was the public hearing open on that one? I think it was.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think it was prior to the vote on both items,
yes.
but just in case there was anyone.
Is there anyone else who hasn't spoken, just to be sure, who wants to speak on 8B? All right. I'll close the public hearing. All right, we move on to no consent agenda, to new business and ordinance.
This is an ordinance of the city of Miami Springs, Florida, amending section 150-070.1 Miami Springs Gateway Overlay District within Article 7 Business District of Chapter 150 zoning code of the city's code of ordinances to amend the list of uses permitted on first floor levels along road rights of way, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing for an effective date. Mayor and council, earlier this evening, you voted to recommend, you sat as the local planning agency and you voted to recommend approval of the ordinance with a caveat that we, between first and second reading, further define what a medical use is in the professional office setting. So we'll go ahead and come back to you with something for second reading. But other than that, you can have further discussion or you can make a motion to approve the ordinance. with
Motion
the
to approve
recommendation.
ordinance A with the
11A.
clarification made by the counselor.
Second.
Any discussion? Call a vote, please.
Vice Mayor Santin,
Well, the caveats in there. Yes.
Councilwoman Bravo,
No.
Councilman Behet,
Yes.
Councilman Vasquez.
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell.
Yes,
The motion carries.
okay. So we have no other business. Let's go to reports and recommendations by our city. Welcome back, Heidi.
No, wait.
Thank you,
Other
Mayor. There's
business,
actually
Other
two
business?
Other
items
business?
under other business.
Yes.
What do we have? Oh, I'm sorry. I don't have the revised agenda. Sorry. Excuse me. Okay,
12A is the request by Councilman Fahad to
Yes.
discuss the F-dot Iron
Yes.
Triangle
thank
project.
you.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. So I want to be brief because I know it's kind of early. It's like dog years. The time is like ground to a halt. It's like a Dali painting looking at the clock. It's melting. Okay, so and Mayor, you could probably speak to, I'll pass it on to you, but the Iron Triangle project by FDOT, which is an overpass for eastbound traffic getting off of the 112. I think the Iron Triangle project is to allow that overpass to go over Lejeune when you get off of 112, and it would like leave you right there, like where the EB hotel is. My understanding, and you probably could speak to this more than me, but my understanding is that the FDOT was supposed to get back to us, and I believe they have not. So really what I wanted to do was just ask staff to please reach out to FDOT and give us an update, because I'd like to put this as a discussion item for the September 28th meeting, so that we could discuss it again. It would be great if FDOT could give us an update, because I'm hearing scuttlebutt that things are like moving along, and I believe they were supposed to collaborate with us, and I want to make sure that we are aware of where they are in the process so that we can be well represented throughout that process. So that's why I put this on the agenda.
Thank you, Councilman. Yes, and I'll just update what I know about it. This is a project that several years ago, FDOT said they wanted to do that. I don't know why they call it the Iron Triangle, but it's Lejeune and 36th Street, and that's exactly what they want to do. They want to extend the exit from 112 further into Miami Springs to alleviate traffic as it gets kind of backed up. I personally think it's a horrible idea for our business area, for the Burger King, EB Hotel and all of that. We're going to have an overpass coming down into the city. It'll be noisy for the residents in that area, but also, you know, the things that happen under overpasses, there's nothing nice that happens over underpasses. It's aesthetically, it certainly won't benefit our city. I think that they can, and when this first came up a few years ago, they said that they were going to move into the PD&E. We asked FDOT why we hadn't had public meetings on it. And they said, well, but when they move into the PD&E, then they would have public meetings on it. That's been several years. I know Tammy has followed up on it from time to time, even when we were having the budget workshop, the project workshop back in April or something, to find out the status. When in July 20th, when we had, or 19th, when we had, FDOT had the meeting for the Northwest 67th Street corridor, the Miami cargo area, I asked about the Iron Triangle project. I said, you know, we still haven't heard anything on that. And they said, oh, we'll get you some information on it, which they did. They sent something that month. I sent it to Tammy. Tammy, if you haven't distributed to them, please do. And JC has it now. And I agree, we need to ask them to come and tell us what's going on with that. Their whole purpose of that is not backing up 112 Expressway. And that's nice, but that shouldn't have a negative impact on, you know, one of our main corridors, Northwest 36th Street. And in reality, anything that went for parking and, you know, parking for those cargo areas and all, that's basically, you know, what should be a perimeter road for the airport. And anything that they want to do there on that side of the airport, I think they have a lot of room to do it, to design that and to look at it without negatively impacting our city. So with that said, Tammy, if we could ask them to come, like Councilman Fahed said, for the next meeting and make a presentation. Something else that, well, I'll wait till, because it's on FDOT, I'll just go ahead and mention. After the Northwest 67th Street corridor meeting, FDOT reached out, because I also asked about, there's 3 projects. Northwest 36th Street corridor, Northwest 67th Street corridor, and the Iron Triangle. They're all FDOT projects. They have different teams that work on them. So I asked about the Northwest 36th Street corridor project, which is also something that they had public meetings on a long time ago. And then they decided to scrap it and start with a new team because they heard so much negative input from our cities as to, that was when they were talking about the overpass and, you know, the bypass and all this. And they started with new consultants. And the new consultants have been, you know, they communicate a lot. They've reached out and they want to do like a walkthrough with us. Because of the Sunshine Law, we can't all be involved. But they're going to set up an app where residents can actually take a picture of things that concern them on Northwest 36th Street and send it to FDOT, and they'll get that information. Am I yelling? My ears are really stopped up from the plane. I feel like I'm screaming to hear myself. So anyway, they'll set up that app and it'll be for residents and council and everyone else who sees something on 36th Street that they, you know, want to point out, to send it to FDOT and they can consolidate all that data. So anything else on that?
Yeah,
Councilman?
I just wanted to add that, you know, from the very first time I heard about this, I was opposed to this. And I'm sorry, I was out of town when they had that hearing in July, I think it was. I just think it's a terrible idea, and it's gonna hurt us immensely, particularly businesses on 36th Street, folks that live closer to 36th Street on that strip. So we gotta keep plugging and pushing and plotting and conspiring, whatever we have to do to stop this. And, you know, I every time I hear Iron Triangle, I'm sorry, I think about Vietnam, because that's what the area between the south and the north used to be referred to. I don't know if, you know,
I don't
this
know where they
predates
got
that or anything, but I hear Iron Triangle, you know, I'm hearing, you know, guerrilla warfare anyway. But that's, that's my concern there. Thank you.
I did want to mention though, Councilman, since you brought that up, that meeting that they had July 20th or 19th of
Yeah,
this,
that's.
that was the Northwest 67th
Oh,
Avenue
okay,
corridor.
okay, okay.
That was to address traffic leaving the Miami cargo area on Northwest 67th
Got
Avenue.
it.
So there was a lot of
And you, there was-
misunderstanding,
there were a
I
lot of
think, from
people there,
residents
yeah,
that it had to do with the Northwest 36th Street corridor. And then when somebody asked, are you going to do the bypass? They said no, but they're not the ones.
when that was my
You
confusion.
know what I'm saying? Well, I just want to make that clear to residents that when we have another public meeting for the Northwest 36th Street corridor or the Iron Triangle, don't think like you already went to a meeting, and these are different corridors
Yeah.
that they're looking at. And, you know, God bless FDOT. Their responsibility is to look at the big picture and try to get traffic moving throughout the county. So I understand, you know, their responsibility, you know, and that is their responsibility. Our responsibility is to make sure that whatever they're doing benefits our community, because it shouldn't just not negatively impact it. It should benefit us. We should, you know, we should see something that, you know, this is great for us. So I think we need to stay on track with that.
Considering that this is a more significantly negative impact on us than even another project that you attended. This is definitely directly in Miami Springs. So if you guys were passionate about that meeting, you
Mhm.
should even get more passionate about this one.
So I don't want anyone to let their guard down and think, oh, we already, you know, that somehow kept, you know, getting the information kept coming out as, you know, it had to do with 36th Street, or they're not doing the viaduct over 36th Street. That wasn't that meeting at all.
Correct.
Okay. Any other on that? Okay, Councilman, you have another on the Abraham track?
Thank you. Yes. So I just wanted to bring up a topic for discussion. We don't have to go very in depth. But just to remind the public is that we can't really talk about city business unless it's in the sunshine in a public forum that's noticed, that people can listen to us kind of exchange ideas. So in that spirit, I wanted to bring up the Abraham Tract. As you guys know, Captain Pereira was discussing it. We've got about 26 or so acres. It's where the hotels are on the other side of Lejeune, where the right, where Baker Aviation is back there. And that is an important tract of land because, one, it's a tract of land that we already have, right? That we don't have to fight to annex it from everyone. But it is underutilized. It is also, those parcels out there, but not only are they underutilized, but they are sitting in an area that is soon to be rapidly developing, because the Beckham Group is creating a huge complex there where Melreese Golf Course used to be. And that is it is a tract of land that I think we have a responsibility to manage correctly in order to benefit our city and maximize the benefit to our city. So I know that staff and certain members of the council have been thinking about what could be done over there, and I wanted to bring it up into an open forum so that we could all discuss it, so that everyone knows what is happening over there, and kind of what our position as a council is in terms of ideas of what needs to be done over there. So for the benefit of the residents, I wanted to bring it up for a brief discussion so that we can talk about what we want to do over there.
Yeah, well, just to reiterate what you said and many others have said about the Abraham Tract, I think that I'm going to just put simple numbers in front of you to show you what kind of an impact we're talking about. That area, aside has 26 acres, technically right now is paying $99,000 to our city. $99,000 to our city. I'm privy because I do projects for appraisal work on the other side. Palmer Lake is definitely, like Councilman has said, it's going to be airport, Freedom Stadium, go on and on and on. Why this is such a great location. So we're sitting right next to it. And just one particular project that we did over there that could be valued around $400 million. Just put that simple millage rate for 1 year only, because obviously from there we would lower everybody's taxes. It's a $2.9 million tax revenue versus $99,000.
Through Chair,
Yes, sir.
I think Sylvia wanted to. No, oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay.
Okay.
Did you have some?
No, I thought it was from the
Okay,
development
I
planning perspective. I thought.
think we're all in total agreement with what you're saying. I guess the thing is, and thank you, Councilman, for bringing it up, and Councilman Santeen for what you said is, where do we go from here? The only restriction that I could see, and maybe we need to review what our zoning is in that area, because I'm not sure if anyone even knows I think when that was annexed, it was kind of like what, Sylvia, can you tell us like what is the zoning restrictions there? And I think the only thing that I can see that might be somewhat restrictive is that it is in the flight path of, the planes. It goes east and west. So I'm not sure that you can go
Through the chair.
a certain height more than.
Captain Pereira mentioned that earlier. And
Yes. Yeah, but
He knows.
I also know that like the Beckham Stadium,
Yeah.
supposedly the lights that they were going to have were going to be too bright, and the
Yeah.
planes, and then they
Yes,
worked around it.
yes.
So these are all things that can be worked
Definitely
around
restrictions.
or
Right.
worked out.
We haven't spent too much time yet looking at that one in particular, but we are thinking about it. And if you recall, it is one of the items that is in our budget to you for planning this coming year. And I put it as one of the top priorities because I think the timing makes it such. So we can get started as soon as you tell us that you want to get going on that planning process. Yes, the zoning is one of your special districts. It's got, a little bit more leeway than the others, but I don't think it really captures the potential that it has given the circumstances that we're experiencing right now. The county did a charrette a number of years ago, so there is a plan for that area. We can look at it and sort of see what we can salvage from it, but I think it's got more potential even than that. And it's your one area that is sort of self-insulated from the rest of your city, where you could really try to push your density, your mixed use as much as possible. And as you said, Mayor, perhaps the only restriction that you're going to have is on the flight path. But I think if I recall correctly, and I'm going to have to go and check again, but I think it kind of goes, it tears down as it goes north. So there may be a possibility north on the tract. So there may be a possibility to go sort of scaling up as you go north as well.
Sylvia, and one other thing, if you could look into it, is because that area is by the Miami rail.
Yes.
I believe that the Commissioner Gilbert's rapid transit zone, which extended, I don't know, a radius right around any metro rail stations, impacts that area some. I'm not sure if you could look into that too, that there may be some even perhaps county, and I can't remember, it was a few years ago, but there was something with that was going to possibly impact that area, and I'm not sure. And it wouldn't impact our residential, with the Okeechobee Metro Rail Station, because those are single family residences, but that was
Right.
different. So,
Right. Even for the purposes of thinking in terms of the Live Local Act, that might be perhaps the only place where it would make sense for any developers to look, but then again, your densities in the rest of your city and your building heights in the rest of your city are too low to entice someone. From that perspective, yeah, in a way, it's a shame for that purpose, but on the other hand, it's a protection for the rest of your city. So, you know.
Yeah.
It's,
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I had a question for Sylvia and thank you for this. This is the proposal that you made and you color coded for us in terms of priority. And if my memory serves me correctly, we decided to approve all of the prioritized color coded things that you guys were that CGA was going to help us with in terms of consultation.
Yes,
And this was a special project that I think came out to about $140,000, 315 by my math. To what extent are the things that are color coded here that we already approved as a special project? To what extent are we working on that through this? Because I'd like to know if we're going to have to, if that's going to be a separate thing that we have to try to fund.
I'm sorry.
So you gave us a bunch of priorities here,
Yes.
and we approved in this year's budget
Yes.
to do all of the color coded priorities.
Right, yes.
Is the Abraham tract, to what extent is the Abraham tract part of what's being addressed?
It's
in the
actually
color
one
coded?
of, it's a separate item, if I recall correctly. I don't have it in front of me right now, but
Do you want to take a look at it? Was it color coded?
Yes, color coded.
I'd like to know, right? Because we approved, we hadn't had this discussion. I think individually, people on the council, okay, so it was color code. Perfect. Okay, great. So then I just wanted to make sure that that's something that we're addressing and working on as part of the special project that we decided to fund from the CGA.
yes, sir.
Going back to that, I think the colors also kind of prioritize,
That's
right?
correct.
So
Yeah.
I would like to see if we can direct you to put the Abraham track as
It's
first
one
priority.
of my top. The only reason why the comprehensive plan is the top
Okay.
is because we do have an obligation to meet a deadline with that.
Okay.
I don't want to be late like the last time. Not even a day. But aside from that, you know, the blues are the top priority in terms of the council's priorities.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So what are we agreeing to here, or what direction are we
doing-
giving Sylvia to
To continue doing what she's doing, I guess.
To rezone or?
go ahead and go forward?
forward, yeah.
Yes, with
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Abraham track, and, you know, I thank you, Councilman Santeen, for, you know, coming up with that figure of, you know, the lost revenue there and the opportunities. Okay, Councilman Fahed, did you want to say anything else on that?
No, thank you. I just wanted to bring that up for discussion so that the public knows what we're working on and thinking about.
Okay, so let's go to reports. Our city attorney.
I'm
Yes.
sorry, Mayor, just.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Right. Once the budget is approved.
Yes.
I'm excited personally to work on that with Sylvia and her team. I know that these are ideas that we've talked about for a long time, and I'm very excited for the city to see it moving forward. It really shows a lot of progress, and I know as much discussion as you've had and as I've heard and been briefed, that there have been different opinions on the budget the last several meetings. It's nice to see unity on this. So I'm excited for you.
And, you know, and just mentioning with that Abraham track, there's two things that are going on, the Beckham Stadium, of course. And then the airport itself is supposedly putting in a, you know, luxury hotel and, you know, expanding and adding all these things. So those are two things that are kind of happening, and we're right sandwiched in between. We should get on the bandwagon and make sure that, you know, that we benefit from
Through the
that.
chair.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, you had mentioned at one point more open conversations with the management of the airport in Miami Springs, because this is really a good topic for them to get feedback,
Yes.
to inform them and get feedback from them.
I actually asked Commissioner Cabrera to facilitate that.
Okay.
Because the airport is, you know.
Yes,
is his,
yes, yes.
and he's looking into it to facilitate that. They're doing all the stuff, and, you know, we should know what's
Mhm.
going on, and we should also, see how we can work together to, plus, the airport owns a lot of these little plats of land on Northwest 36th Street corridor, which they're holding on to. So we'll see. Okay. So Heidi, something else? We're so happy to have you, even though we love having Roger too. It's nice to have you both here.
Thank you, Mayor. I do.
How's the
I'm-
baby?
The baby is great. The older baby is great. I'm officially for at least the next month and a half in the 2 under 2 category. So my life is very exciting right now. This is technically my first full day back to work. So I'm glad to spend the evening with you all. And it's
you're not.
I want to publicly thank my colleague, Roger Poe, for holding up the fort in the city attorney's office the last several months. I know he's done a great job, as well as the rest of our partners who've really been tremendously helpful in my absence. They're always helpful, but they really step up when needed. So I want to thank them. And I want to welcome JC as the manager. I know this is your first meeting.
Yes, it
with the
is.
city, so welcome.
Thank you.
And that's all for tonight, Mayor.
Okay. All right, city manager.
Yes, Mayor, I'll be brief. We were notified today actually by Miami-Dade County that they're going to begin their asphalt restoration, their asphalt work, the road resurfacing work on East Drive, heading west on South Royal Poinciana, up until the circle. They're going to work around school zone traffic. So you'll see that start tomorrow. From here to the circle, they said it's going to take about 10 days. And then once they're done there, they're going to continue on North Royal Poinciana from Milam's to the FEC railroad tracks.
Good.
So as ours is finishing up to East Drive, they're going to take over and they're going to continue going. Also today I met with Carlos from the town center. Next Wednesday, there will be asphalt being laid down on Canal Street, I believe it is. So you're going to see asphalt there as well. And hopefully the road will be open shortly thereafter. I was pressuring him when they're going to get their CO, because that helps us out budgetarily. And they're saying in about a month and a half to 2 months, I believe they said, that they're going to be they have their inspections all lined up and it's all final. They don't want to go do a TCO. They're going to go for the permanent CO. So looking forward to that. And I know that there's issues with the budget, but I do want you to know we'll get through it. It'll be fine. We'll get through it. It's nothing that other cities haven't been through before, and we'll be fine. All right. So and on top of that, just thank you again for the opportunity to be your manager. It's really an honor. So thank you.
Okay, so let's start with the vice mayor.
Well, first I'll publicly say it, even though I've been driving him crazy and telling him this every day, but I am happy that you're here. So welcome.
Thank you.
And Heidi, welcome back. And as much as I am going to miss, I'm going to miss him a little bit that he's not going to be here as often. He already pre-warned us that he will not. So, but still.
I'm not letting him go anywhere.
Oh, okay.
Like I said, 202. So Roger's not going away.
Okay. And last thing is to the residents. As much as we have a little bit of contention here at the end, setting this millage rate, this decision, I hope that you guys truly believe in that it's a difficult decision, and we didn't take this lightly at all. I know I spent a lot of time praying that I make the right decision for this community, and I hope that you believe that.
Councilwoman? All right, so first and foremost, we're gonna go ahead and congratulate our new officer, Steven Torres. He's so young. I wish you would have seen him. He was really, really happy.
I could see it.
Yeah, you saw it. He's tall, very tall. Let's see. I also want to welcome JC. I'm so excited that you're here. I'm going to say it again to our finance director. I feel like we have a powerhouse, and with Tammy in between, we're just tying up all the loose ends. So I feel like we have like fresh starts from almost every corner, from rezoning the 36th Street to now Councilman Fahad and Santin talking about the Abraham track. So I'm really excited to start on these projects. Teamwork makes the dream work, right? Welcome back, Heidi. It's nice to see you in the arena again. And I'm looking forward to continuing to work with Roger. Thank you, Roger, for being there. I know I drove you crazy. I gave Heidi a break, but she knows that's not gonna last too long. But anyways, thank you so much for your consistent professionalism and response. You've been outstanding. And let's see. I just want to say thank you to my colleagues because we are up here making decisions and we could always agree to disagree and move forward. And I don't think a lot of cities have that. So they're be contentious, but we're real people with real feelings and real visions, and they're always not going to line up. But the goal is whatever is, like our council members always say, what's good for the general public and for our community and for ourselves as well, because we live here. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Fahad.
Thank you. So I've said this before and I'll just say bears repeating. We're all up here and everybody up here is and I think Captain Pereira said that you know, we were voted up here to do something and he was favoring you know, a certain point of view, but really we were all put up here to do what we truly believe is right. And I believe that everybody here is doing what they think is right. And that I respect you guys for that. The fact that we fight, it's a pillow fight. We're supposed to. You got to fight for what you think is right. So I'm very, very happy with the fact that you guys stick to what you think is right, because that's definitely what you were voted to do. And so I appreciate and respect that you guys do that. And like I've always said, a good team, when you break the huddle, you run the play the way and you run it 100%. And I have no doubt that everybody here does that. You know, sometimes you disagree with the play and sometimes you don't, but when we break the huddle, we're one team and we're moving forward for what's best for the city. And I truly believe that. And I know, and I respect the fact that you guys are kind of aligned and that we're all aligned with that vision. So thank you for your service and for allowing me to be part of it.
Councilman Vasquez, I promise next time I will start on that end.
No,
I
it's
used to
fine.
go
You
back and
started
forth
with me the last
sometimes.
time. That, you know,
I did,
you know,
okay.
That's a good balance. I'm good.
With Councilman Best, it was like that. I could always say, you know, we leave the best for last. you know.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to mention him in a moment here, but first of all, Councilman Fahad, I appreciate your words and I believe them wholeheartedly. So I am a firm believer, as a good Catholic, in Jesus moments. We're always looking for people who have Jesus moments. But anyway, so I want to talk about briefly about the War Memorial, and I may take an extra minute because I want the city manager to understand better, because he's going to be involved in this process to some extent. But as you know, a group of veterans in the city, former Councilman Bob Best and myself and others from the American Legion Post 32, which is actually a Hialeah post, took it upon ourselves to begin a process to renovate the War Memorial that's on Curtis Parkway. Miami Springs has had a war memorial since the end of World War II. And veterans in Miami Springs decided they wanted to have a memorial, you know, a statue. It started on the Circle. It was to remember those individuals who wore the uniform and were killed in action. In other words, paid the ultimate price. The memorial has been moved in the 70s to the present location. And so we decided about 3 years ago, it was time it needed some refurbishing and some tender loving care and some update. And so we started a process of raising money ourselves, and we've raised almost $20,000, and we've spent some of it because we sold bricks and people have bought bricks, 2 different sizes. They're gonna go around the monument. The monument's gonna have, you know, 6 pillars for the 6 military divisions, and through the support and the leadership of State Senator Brian Avila, who was a resident, and State Representative Alex Rizzo, who lives in I believe he's in Hialeah, but we're in that district. They were able with the signature of the governor, get a $150,000 state appropriation to the city to refurbish this monument, which is going to be great. And I think we can really do it all now. So it's important for you to know this. And we had a recent meeting. I'm the president of the committee, and former Councilman Best is the vice president, and Virginia Gardens City Councilman Richard Block is also part of the group. And I told the group that the committee will need to work with the city on that appropriation and work out the details of that. I had spoken to Tammy about it. As a sitting councilman, I recuse myself from doing that negotiation, right? So you're going to be getting a call from Bob Best and Richard Block to begin this conversation about the appropriation, the procedures, how the city works on this, so forth and so on. And that's you'll be hearing from them pretty soon. In addition, we have through the help and support of the Gazette, and we put ads out and we've gotten renditions. So a lot of people have a really good idea of what that new design is going to look like. It's not taking anything away from what's there. There's some refurbishing that's going to go around it. As I mentioned, the bricks and some benches that people have bought are going to go around it. And so the design has just been changed slightly in that we've added 2 more components to it, which are grottos. One recognizing Gold Star mothers. So these are mothers who have lost a son or a daughter in the service. So that'll be part of the memorial. And the other one is those missing in action. So anyone missing in action, everyone knows this, but just for the record, is a service person in a combat area who was never accounted for. And so they're technically missing in action until we can confirm, that they did actually die. And, this has happened with Vietnam and Korea. And through the years, we've been able to get some of those, evidence and so forth. So that's going to be the next recognition on that. So, and I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the city on behalf of the committee for all the support you guys have given us. When we started this process, we incorporated as a 501c3. Our account is right here at the Truist Bank under William Alonso. He had allowed for staff to help us. Anyone sending checks to the memorial so that we could get them, because the checks come with it with a form that the individual donating the money tells us what they want written on the brick itself. Some people have recognized, like my wife and I, both our fathers who were in the military and so forth. And the city has been gracious to continue to support us in this level. And secondly, the first round of bricks that were purchased, and I think one bench is being housed at Public Works. So that's a big thing that you all have done for this project. And so just give you a quick timeline. If things go the way they are with this appropriation from the state, which should cover all the costs, we'd like to do a groundbreaking on November 11th, Veterans Day. Generally, the city celebrates both Veterans Day in November and Memorial Day in May. November groundbreaking is more realistic. We'd like to get it done by Memorial Day so we can have a big celebration around that. But that's generally the package. One last detail is that we went back and forth on this. We want to have at the top of the memorial, those of you that's seen it, yes, you take a couple of steps up. We're going to have a kind of an internal light electronically, right, to really shine up the area. So anyway, and so from now on, I'll let Bob Best and and Richard Blanc. I can tell you right now, JC, they're characters. They're good people, they're characters. Sometimes both of them together are not too friendly, but I'm also glad to report that we had the meeting at Bob Best's house. So he has come a long way in his recovery. Gonna get that thing he's got on his neck, a brace, off in the next 2 weeks. And I told him that doesn't mean you can run around the city, you know. But anyway, thank you all for your time, and thank you for your support, because I know many of you, Captain, so many other folks have contributed by purchasing bricks, and we're still selling them. So
Thank you, Councilman. We're all looking forward to that. That's going to be wonderful, and especially because we have such nice celebrations here in the city, and this will just add to it. I just wanted to make a few things. First of all, and I know Vice Mayor, you mentioned it's September 11th, that today is September 11th. By coincidence, I've flown on September 11th numerous times, not because of, today isn't no exception. And I think last year was from New York, and each time I'm like, in the airport, I'm going, it's amazing what happened. And yet, airports are so safe. Everything that happened, that tragedy, and it was catastrophic, and yet somehow we overcame it, and nothing can keep our country down. We just build back up, and so anyway, just condolences to all of the families who lost a loved one during the September 11th tragedy. Our thoughts and prayers are with them. I wanted to welcome JC also, and we're really happy that you're here. And I know we've talked, and I'm sure the rest of the council has spoken with you. And you've got some great ideas about ways that we can, things that we haven't been doing that we should be looking at. And I think that's one of the reasons that it's always good to have fresh set of eyes come on, with experience from other areas, because it helps us look at some things that maybe we've just haven't thought of, or, have ignored, only because other things were taking our attention. So we're looking forward to your ideas.
Perfect.
Tammy, I want to say it again. I can't say it enough. I am so impressed by, always by, it's no different, but how you, all you did all these months as assistant city manager, interim city manager, running the city. I told JC she is a wealth of knowledge and action and expertise. And thank you so much. We greatly appreciate it. And you're very, very valued to all of us. Let's see. I wanted to mention appropriations. The appropriations with the state are, Representative Rizzo called me a few weeks ago to tell me it's moved up. They're starting the sessions early this year. So I think the appropriations, they need them before November or late October, something. So we need to discuss appropriations. And for those of you, just to refresh, appropriations are what we ask our state legislators money to bring us back for projects. And it has to be for specific projects, things like the War Memorial. They funded South Royal Poinciana, the improvements on South Royal Poinciana, the improvements on East Drive throughout the years. It's not stuff that we always get projects, because even if the first phase is, they have to get it through the House and the Senate approved. And even if it gets there, we're always subject to the governor's veto. So it's a process, but we submit appropriations, what we'd like to. So I'd like to ask all of the council to kind of think of things. One of the things I'm thinking of is, we've talked about this, a police headquarters. I see that as possibly the type of thing that we could get state appropriations for, because, improving our public safety and police and all. So perhaps we can look at that. But if there's other major, and it should be, state appropriation should be for big ticket items. And sometimes we have to put in some too. It's not like even South Royal Poinciana and East Drive and all this that we got state appropriations, costs have gone up, but the city has to put in something, but it really helps. So please be thinking of stuff. And we're having a meeting, I think, in a week or two with our lobbyist. What happens with the state appropriations is we decide, and usually it's a handful of projects, 1, 2, 3, I mean, some years we've gone 4, but, and then our lobbyist is the one that, presents them, takes them up there and works them and tries to get them, tries to keep putting them up on top. Keep putting them up on top of the pile of, because every other community is doing the same thing, sending appropriations. And that's where our lobbyist is really helpful. None of us have the time to be in Tallahassee trying to get, attention to our needs. And they do a really good job of that. So keep that in mind. If there's things, reach out to JC, let him know what your thoughts are, talk to him about it, and to Tammy. Tammy can tell you a list of the appropriations we've had, every year for the past several years. One thing I wanted to ask with the downtown, one town center, is before they get their certificate of occupancy, they're supposed to have some sort of, I don't know what else to call it, essence of public, what is it? Mission revival. What do we call it? Pueblo mission revival or something. I'm not sure what that is or where it was supposed to be. I remember that it was being discussed originally, but I don't see it on there now. So I think that's
Public
important.
art too.
Pardon me?
Some public art you're supposed to put.
Yeah, there were some things on there that, and I know the Pueblo mission essence.
It was.
Accents, yes. So, it should be there. And the other thing is, with the parking, it's my understanding, and this is just before the certificate of occupancy, that the parking for, their ramp to go up should be public. That's not supposed to be down, it's supposed to be available to everyone. Could you, I want to make sure these are things that, before that it's supposed to be available for anyone to park there.
Yeah.
In that parking garage, as you go up the ramp.
Anyone who's using
The building, right.
the services at the building, like the business.
Yes. It's not just for residents is what I mean. So that's extra public parking. And I want to make sure that that's, there. So there shouldn't be like a resident card, or something if there's a gate. I don't even know if there's going to be a gate. But I'm looking forward to that being available. And I think that's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor.
It's adjourned.
Thank you.
I think this is what you were talking about.
I saw that. The Achilles.
I think that's what you were talking about.
What time did you, Maria, what time did you leave? Unbelievable.
Tomorrow night we have.
No, you're welcome. Yeah. I hear you. I hope you feel better.
Yeah, we're almost there. Now we know where we are.
Yeah.
Eastern time you arrived here, what time? We didn't know, we just were waiting for you to.
We arrived, and I went.
You see where a lot going on here.